This conference will now be recorded.
To address our fire department and some other items contained within our ordinances. I'll start the meeting with a few opening remarks. I want to thank our neighbors from Horry County who will be speaking with us soon. Today represents a pivotal moment for Surfside Beach. This morning, we will hear from Horry County about how it can take over firefighting services for Surfside Beach. I'm not here to tell you what to think or that this is no big deal and what you should think about it. We are rightly proud of our town and we must work to preserve it. But sometimes preservation involves some repair and renovation. This decision has rather intense emotional implications, but in the end, town council must exercise logic and do the right thing for Surfside Beach, for its residents, businesses, and visitors. This is an educational experience for us all. We will hear from Horry County what it can offer in terms of staffing, performance and response, and at what cost. We will hear Horry County plans for our fire station, equipment, and personnel. We will hear why the timing for our decision is critical. We will hear from Chief Nelson, who just came to work for Surfside Beach. We will hear the potential impact on him and his staff. We will hear what it will take for Surfside Beach to attain and then maintain adequate staffing to provide the level of safety and performance his staff and our residents need. Town Council is getting this presentation for the first time, just as you are. There will be no motions entertained, no decisions made, and no votes taken at this meeting. So there will be no public comment before the presentation. You will have the opportunity to speak after you've heard the information. I urge everyone here, whether resident or council member or any other interested party, to listen with an open mind. I have my own concerns about our situation, and everything else being equal, I do not want to lose our Surfside Beach Fire Department. But I want to fully understand all the pros and all the cons and all the implications and ramifications involved before I support any specific course of action. And I urge all of Surfside Beach to do the same. With that in mind, I ask Mr. Randy Webster, Assistant Administrator and Director of Public Safety for Horry County, to speak with us on the potential for Horry County to take over firefighting services for Surfside Beach. Mr. Webster, the floor is yours. Please feel free to introduce your associates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, members of Town Council. It's an absolute honor and privilege to be here before you today. I will, as the Mayor asked, let you know who else is with me today. Our County Administrator, Steve Gosnell, is with us. Assistant Administrator for Administration, Barry Spivey, is with us today. Our County Attorney, David Jordan, is with us today. Our County Public Information Officer, Deputy Public Information Officer, Tom Bell, is with us. And of course, our Honorable Council Member Tyler Service is with us today too. So thank you all so much. Your words were perfect, Mr. Mayor, that this is a big deal. It's a big deal for all of us within the county. We are all one family. To me, there are no jurisdictional boundaries when it comes to public safety. My role as Public Safety Director or Assistant County Administrator over Public Safety is to ensure that we're providing the best service we can countywide to those areas that we're directly responsible for and those that we're indirectly responsible for in terms of partnerships and agreements and things like that. So I do want to say thank you again and kind of walk through a little bit of history as well as why we're here today. A few weeks ago, we received a call from town administration about the situation in Surfside. What can we do, if anything, to help this situation out at all? So well, let's get together and talk. That's the best way to start. And so we did, and kind of laid a few things out. And I will tell you this: there's a lot to work through if this is a choice that the town wants to make. But I'm also confident it can be done. Hopefully easy, but there's always difficult, and the details are yet to come all together. But anyway. So what's important to understand is we have an extremely long history of a partnership here between the county and the town of Surfside in public safety. Back in the mid-1990s, this is before fire and EMS were together. They were separate, Horry County Fire and Horry County EMS. And I was in EMS administration at that time. And we were growing then, just like we're growing now, just not the rapid pace. And we had a need to put an advanced life support medic unit in this end of the county somewhere. And we were faced with trying to find where to put that. Purchase land, build a station. And just like today, money was tight. There's no doubt about it. We approached the town at that time and said, hey, would you be interested in us putting our paramedic ambulance in the town at the fire station and work a partnership together with that? And that's what we did. And that was in the mid-1990s. And we have had that relationship ever since. And it's been wonderful to grow that relationship as we continue to grow. Back in the 90s, our closest fire station was at Socastee. And then over the years, we added the one at Scipio Fire Station there. And we've been able to, once we merged EMS and fire, we were able to use the cross-trained employees on the ambulance and enjoyed that benefit for the town as far as your ISO rating goes. And we've enjoyed the partnership ever since and continue to do so and plan to do so in the future no matter what. But it's important to understand that's been 30 years in the making, and it's worked great. And now we find ourselves in a similar situation, just on the different side of the fence. I understand totally what the situation is that you're in. And we are here to help. And I don't make that sound like a cliche, that we're the government, we're here to help, but we're here to help. It's important, as I mentioned earlier, we are all in this community. This is a community of not only Surfside, but also Horry County. And what we work together now, every given day, if there's a structure fire in Surfside or in the surrounding area of Surfside, we're all working together. We all respond. We have similar training, and we have similar types of equipment. And it's just, in terms of getting people to the emergency and getting the job done, it works. And does it really matter at the end of the day, if you're the one calling on 911 because you have an emergency, does it matter to you who shows up to get the job done? As long as the job gets done and done correctly and done efficiently and lives are saved, isn't that the bottom line? And that's what I'm here to tell you is we can do that together. It's important for me that you understand, from my perspective, this is a partnership. And that's all that it is. And I want to maintain that partnership as much as possible, and we're here to do it. So let's talk a little bit about, why we're here, some key points. So we did get the request from town officials, and we started to look into it and basically how can we best serve our entire community with the resources that we have in order to help facilitate the needs in Surfside as well. So as I mentioned before, when we do have, and we're talking specifically fire issues today, when we do have a fire call, we are all together. We bring a lot of resources from these other surrounding stations, just like Roseland Garden City gets involved too. And you all are part of that, even in the surrounding area. We have agreements in place that facilitate that. So it's not a issue of I have no idea, or you all have no idea how we work together. We do it every single day. But to me, there are some important things here. And number 3 on the list is very important to me. I think it's important to maintain the identity of the town of Surfside. If this goes in this direction, that's important. I get that this is a very emotional thing. I get that it impacts a lot of people. I understand how it impacts your community. Identity is crucial. And there's no reason that we need to lose that in this process whatsoever. One of the things we'll need to work through is how do we transfer the volunteers of this department as well as the paid staff to Horry County under our guidelines. We got to work through that if that is to take place. And I'm assuming in this presentation that that's the direction we're going in. So that's kind of the context of this presentation. I know we have an urgency to try to get this done on July 1st of this year. That's a very challenging task, but I think it's doable. I will tell you this, so to keep it in perspective, should this happen, there's a lot to take place over the course of the next several months, including legal actions that have to happen, such as ordinances passed and things like that to keep this thing rolling in the right direction. But if we can't get it done by July 1 of this year, you'll have to wait a whole nother year. And I'll go into that in more detail in just a minute as to why that's important. If we do this, one of the simplest things to do is the town will become under part of the Rural Fire Protection District of Horry County. This is the critical piece about the July 1 deadline. So we've done this in 2 other areas of the county, the town of Briarcliff Acres and the town of Anger. We actually provide the fire service there for those 2 municipalities. In turn, they're in the Rural Fire Protection District, and they pay the rural fire tax millage that the rest of the unincorporated area of the county does. That's the critical piece about the July 1 deadline. In order for us to move forward with this and take care of, if the town wants to take this on and have this consolidation happen, do it by July 1 because that is the funding mechanism moving forward. One of the things that I want to make sure it's clear is we will not provide fire marshal services because in Horry County Fire Rescue, we don't do that. Our code enforcement does. So that's one thing we would not be wanting to do in this case. The other thing that's very important if we go down this path is that we need to make sure that when we're working through this, I'm trying to think of the right word. We want to be able to have the fire station, assets, equipment, all under Horry County Fire Rescue. It's important that this actually becomes another piece of the coverage area for Horry County. The average person in call at 911 really won't know a difference in terms of who's showing up, but the skill set, the training, job that needs to get done will be handled. We need to look at the cost of acquiring the station and how we do that. We have issues there in terms of our own problems of, we're looking to build a station at Prestwick because we have a need to fill in that area of the county. And we're slated to build that in 2027. So if we work through this, we would like to be able to, just because of our capital improvement plan, the funding that we would have to be able to purchase this station would not be available probably closer to 2027. So we would need to work out an agreement there on the building itself. Fire apparatus, we want to look at that, acquire that. It's needed. We also have fire apparatus to go to the Prestwick station. So we all can do with a win-win situation because we can divert some of that funding, not spend it in other areas. And as I mentioned, we're all part of Horry County, so we all can win in that piece. We want to look at the other equipment that's involved because we do need to have compatibility over the course of time. Something is what would seem simple as the breathing apparatus or the air tank the firefighters use. We have different ones right now, different manufacturers. They are a little different in terms of how you service those, how you switch them out. It's not that easy to do, they're not the same. We'd have to work through those issues. And you're probably not familiar with the 1% insurance premiums, but it's a premium that is on everybody's homeowner's insurance for fire coverage. And by state legislature, that 1% of that actually goes back to local fire departments. And in Horry County's respect, we use the 1% money for a retirement program. So this is for volunteers and career personnel. And so we started that about 25 years ago. And a lot of the folks that were volunteering then and have since retired have had that extra benefit. And then ones that are currently employed or volunteer with us now have that benefit. I'm not sure what that is done here with that, but we got to look into that and see what's the best way to use those funds as well. But that's not money that's available to the general ledger at all. That is definitely legislatively earmarked for the purpose that it's set forth to do. So a couple other issues to look at is what's the cost of this for a resident if you come under the rural fire millage. So currently, the fire millage for Horry County unincorporated area includes the fire operation itself, plus we have dedicated millage for our fire apparatus replacement program. So total is 23.2 mils of rural fire coverage millage. what does that mean to the town of Surfside residents and commercial? So if you look at this table, and Mr. Stavi's here if you have any specific questions on it as well, but based on the 2023 tax year, an average primary residence of a 4% ratio or a homeowner that lives here, $200,000 home will be an additional $185.60 for what would go toward or be billed in the rural fire protection district Milton. And you can see how that works up for a non-primary resident or commercial up to 6%, $200,000, same issue, it's $278 a year. And that's what will fund this whole operation, and it becomes just wrapped in to the rest of what we do within the county. So I know that's a big piece of what's on everybody's mind. What's this going to cost me as a resident or property owner in the county? The third or the last column is the current valuation that you're paying for your taxes now within each of those same groupings. So $200,000 for 2023 was $876. So this would be assuming an addition to that, if however y'all choose to do that part of it. And that's kind of the meat and potatoes of it. What the issue we will have at hand is we will need to work through a lot of logistical pieces. How do we work? So I think to keep it in real perspective, if this were to happen and we can get it done and all the proper pieces in place and approved and codified by June 30th or July 1, July 2nd is not going to look a whole lot different. Okay, or the 3rd or the 4th. It's going to take time for us to transition into this. But a lot of things we need to do that transition are very dependent upon the fact that those agreements are in place. What we will do is work to add staffing here to get the required minimums for sure, of 4 on the engine and 3 on the ladder. So what happens is you will have that immediate response of firefighters in place. So a great example, if you were to have a house fire, you're trapped in the house. Right now it's a little difficult because you don't have the manpower in place to actually go in and do that rescue. Working together as a partnership, we would have that manpower available. You will still get the same resources coming from Scipio Lane, Socastee, and wherever we need to bring. So we bring a lot with us now, we'll bring a lot with us then, but that initial response, you will have that capability in hand. And I think that's one of the most critical pieces to understand about this, is we would have personnel here 24/7 manning both pieces of apparatus at the level that's needed and to enhance service protection in this community as well as the surrounding area. One thing to understand, this station would serve not just the town. It's part of the rural fire district. So it would also be backup, kind of like it is now, but it is still responding to Deerfield, responding to campgrounds, responding wherever. But we have a responsibility when that happens to backfill stations, so when there are other emergencies that take place. And that's what we do every single day. So I think I got most of the questions that you mentioned or comments you made, and I know there's a lot, and I really would enjoy some questions and feedback that we can kind of clarify maybe a few things. But just understand, for me and for the county and for all of us, it's a partnership we need to continue to work on. And I think that is critically important. Mr. Mayor, that's really what I got.
All right, well, thank you very much. I think what I'd like to do is, before we have questions for you, bring Chief Nelson up to speak a little bit from the Surfside Beach perspective, because I think some of the questions may be similar, or they may trade back and forth. So if you'd be willing to do that, Chief, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the controller.
Said don't save.
First off, I'd like to say that there's three things I feel as the fire chief that's my job to do, and it's to make sure that I protect the citizens of the town, make sure that I protect our firefighters, and make sure that I protect the town itself. And currently, unfortunately, we're just not capable of doing that with the staffing that we have. Pros and cons versus absorbing Surfside Beach Fire Department. Currently, we have 3 captains, 3 firefighter engineers, 2 part-time employees, 13 volunteers, which 4 of those can go interior, 1 fire chief and 1 deputy chief. Horry County staff is over 500 career, over 300 volunteers, fire department wide. Assigned to Surfside, currently we have 2 members on the ambulance. If the county were to staff the Surfside station, the staffing would be 6 per shift, 18 total. Which currently, right now, we have 2 per shift, 6 total. We're not currently meeting NFPA standards, which says that we should have 4 firefighters per apparatus. We're worried to the county coming in, we would already meet that standard. On an average fire, the fire grows 2 times a minute. So time is our enemy. Time is the fire strength, and the firefighters are trapped, and citizens' enemy as well. So that's our biggest problem currently right now. When we go to a fire scene, we're unable to make that initial fire tack. The pump operator, the driver, is going to be staying with the apparatus. We have an officer who's going to do a 360 to do a size up of that situation and see what's going on. He's going to go back and try to deploy a hand line at that time. Time is the enemy. If somebody's trapped inside, they're burning inside there, the fire's multiplying twice a minute, we're not capable of taking care of that issue. With having the staffing immediately there, we can immediately go to work. On average, we need 25 firefighters per scene. We're showing up with 2. Basically, we have an incident commander, we have an operations chief, we have a driver operator, we have 2 minimum on hose, preferably 3. 2 to lay in the large diameter hose that's going to supply the water, 4 to conduct the primary search of the fire, 4 more for a secondary search, and 3 more for a secondary line to get in. We need 2 ambulances, so there's 4 people there, one for the victims, the ambulance, and 1 for the crews working. And then we need additional 4 to 8 people for a rapid intervention team in case one of our firefighters are to go down or we have an entrapment inside there. This is the situation that we're in right now. Surfside Beach relies on mutual aid very strongly. Without the mutual aid, we would not be able to do anything that we're currently doing. Horry County does have the resources to staff us and help us with that. That would be a great thing for us to have. If the Prestwick station should go in, we're going to lose the ambulance, which is 2 more people that we have currently at the station. That would also affect our public protection classification, which currently we're at a 2. I would say that we'll drop at least to a 3, possibly a 4. Now's the time to do it. If the Prestwick station would open up, we would lose that ambulance and we would lose that ISS4 that we have. Staffing. To add the 7 people, we're talking almost $500,000, not including personal protective equipment and training. We're looking at an engine within the next 5 years or so. There's $1 million easy. Radios, $200,000. Air packs, $9,000 a piece, $207,000, and we're going to need those within the next 3 years. Currently, the air packs that we have don't even connect to the aerial that we have. The aerial's due for replacement in 3 to 5 years. Last time I purchased an aerial was $1.7 million. I'm sure it'll be $2 million at that time. And we're talking 3 to 5 years before we can even, once you order it, to get it right now. Training grounds. We have a training ground over off of Scipio Drive. All we have is Connex boxes there. We're gonna need at least probably $100,000 to renovate that so that we could have training grounds for it. If Horry County was to take over, we'd be able to staff our engine with the 4 that we need, as well as 2 on the ambulance, and keep the standard that we need as an NFPA standard. If the town does not wish to go in the direction, the county will be building the Prestwick station, like we said, and we'll be losing a lot of the resources, as well as our public protection classification. What's best for the community and staff? At this time, as the fire chief, I feel Horry County is the better way for us to do it, unless we can actually increase that staff in the current state that we're at. And it doesn't, from being in the budget meeting and stuff, I know we're tight, and I just don't see that we're gonna be able to continue that. The other thing we need to look at is, even if we were to get the staffing that we need, are we capable of being competitive later on down the road when Horry County or Conway or Murrells Inlet decides to raise their pay? Are we gonna be able to continue to do that? And at some time, you're gonna lose personnel with that. Volunteerism is dying. It's a nationwide epidemic. I spoke with the German fire chief. Nobody's volunteering anymore. We go to the high schools, you ask high school kids, hey, you want to volunteer? It's too dangerous. They don't want to do it. The days of families being volunteers and stuff are just not there anymore. Coming from Pennsylvania, we had 300,000 volunteers in the 70s. We have 30,000 currently. And it's affecting, South Carolina just the same. We need younger people. Every time I go to a conference, that's one of the big highlights is, what can we do to get volunteers? And I'm hearing, well, you can make them tax people that help out with the taxes. You can help them with the food drives. You can help them with all this thing, but that's not what we need. We need interior firefighters. And the average age of Surfside, through the statistics, is 55 to 60. We need younger guys that are capable of going in. You're putting on close to 100 pounds of gear. You're dragging a hose that's 100 pounds. It takes a lot of muscle and strength to do what we have to do. And it's not an older person's job, it's a younger person. I'm in the same boat everybody else is, 55. It's not as easy for me at 55 as it was when I was 20. Volunteerism is dying. That's where we're at. We have a good bunch of volunteers that we currently have, but of those volunteers, we have 5 that are interior firefighters. My concern is, if we stay with the town and we do this direction, can we sustain the fire department? Because it's not going to be a one-time thing where we're going to have to raise taxes to get the staffing. Eventually, you're going to have to raise them again for more additional staffing as time goes on. Can we continue to do what we do to be competitive in that fire service? And I always like this quote, I'm not here for me, I'm here for we, and we are here for them. And that's what I feel is a whole that we need to be concerned with. Are we capable of taking care of our citizens and protecting them and making them safe? And at this time, with the staffing that we have, I don't feel we are.
All right, Chief, thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to open up questions for either Mr. Webster or Chief Nelson.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman.
the Chief Nelson said there's gonna be 4 on an engine and 2 on a ladder. And I believe you said there's gonna be 4 and 3,
That's what we would, that's where our minimum is.
so your minimum man would be 4 on the engine and 3.
At least 3 on the ladder. No.
And what about, does that include the ambulance
No,
people?
that's separate.
So that'll be 4, 3, and still have 2 people on the ambulance.
Yes.
Very good.
I understand, sir. It's not the next day. We gotta get those people on board.
I understand.
Yeah, okay.
But eventually it's
But
gonna be
yeah,
that.
just wanna make sure expectations.
And it will be manned like that. Once you got it up and running,
24/7.
it'll be 24/7, and it's not gonna drop anytime. Like,
That's
you're
our-
gonna
that's
say
our
it's 4
minimum.
and 3, and then a year down the line, you go, you know what, we're not gonna.
No, I mean, barring any drastic reduction in revenues, which we all could face, we're all one hurricane away from that. I won't promise you it will never because of that situation, but the desire is to keep on actually adding more over time.
Okay, and then, say you had a medical emergency, the ambulance responds, does a lot of respond with them?
So our current model is, because we are so busy and medical calls are about 80% of what we do in fire rescue. And we've gone through different models of how to best provide that service, because of the paramedics. And so most of our paramedics ride the engine, and the ambulance is a basic life support unit, which has all the equipment on there for the paramedic. So yes, they both go routinely, the engine and the ambulance. If the paramedic is needed, they ride the ambulance, the other one comes off and staffs the engine. If the paramedic's not needed, the engine stays staffed, and the paramedic's still in the community for the next call, because the next ambulance may be Socastee, Conway. I mean, the ambulance is a whole different ambulance or issue.
So if the ambulance goes out, the engine goes out with it, the ladder stays here.
Unless needed on the next call.
Yeah, if something else happens,
Mhm.
we have somebody waiting there, and they can respond to a fire or whatever it is.
Absolutely. And you've also got the support of the rest of the stations around us. So if we were working a structure fire, here in the community, there's always a chance the next one come out. We routinely move stations closer in, so you would have that. Yes.
And then are you still planning on building Prestwick, or if you come here, Prestwick's out, or?
Excellent question. We would not build Prestwick if we go down this route, and we can obtain the current station here, and the equipment here. We would not build Prestwick at all. We wouldn't need that. This station here, the location is, meets our needs for what we're trying to do with Prestwick. Yes,
I can't think of anything else. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Shawn?
I need to understand a little bit better of your coverage, and there's a reason why I'm asking this. Because the MS that you provide us here, this is personal. I had to wait 10 minutes at 1 o'clock in the morning because they were somewhere else. If that was my parents who lived with me with a heart attack, they would have been dead.
yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I need to understand solely the coverage. You're talking Deerfield down 544, what's the whole thing?
For EMS or fire?
Both.
But, okay, so it's real simple. EMS coverage, we are bound by legislature that we provide primary emergency medical coverage for the entire county, including municipalities. Okay, so we have jurisdiction countywide for EMS service. Right now, I think we have maybe 19 ambulances in that general area, maybe a little bit more, covering the entire county. We just ran 80,000 calls in 2023, and the majority of those were medical calls. When I mentioned about why is the paramedic on the engine, it's because we were tying up paramedics on an ambulance, because ambulance from here maybe went to Deerfield, maybe went to Myrtle Beach, maybe went to Conway. It's not unusual, but it wasn't an advanced life support call. So then the paramedic was out because they're in that ambulance going to the hospital. We put them on the engine because if they're not needed on that medical transport, they're back in the community. But the next ambulance may be 10, 15, 20 minutes away, because it's not unusual. Once these ambulances start, you probably see it here. You may not see it much here during the day, because it's everywhere. And it's a countywide service, and that's what we do. And we're continuing to grow that as well as we grow throughout the county. Fire coverage just rolls into this area. There's no boundaries at that point. And yes, this fire station would not just serve the town, it serves the around area. It's the closest unit to the call at that point. It could be in Deerfield. It's less likely that the fire will be going to Myrtle Beach or Conway unless it's supporting a structure fire event there. But for fire coverage, it's part of rural fire coverage now. So it could be anywhere. But as I mentioned earlier, if that happens because we have a large fire somewhere else, we do backfill, even bringing in other department agencies to backfill for that next emergency, because there's usually always another emergency behind that. So it is two different things, but they do work together. And I totally understand your concern. And the only answer to that is we continue to add more to our EMS coverage and do the best we can. But there are times that ambulance 10 minutes may even be a short time. Sometimes it's longer, but as long as the paramedic can possibly get there from the engine, that advanced life support treatment is taking place.
I want to follow up. I want the residents to understand though, we have a large volume of older people here where, and I'm getting there, but I'm talking 80s, 90s, okay? And they can't wait 10 minutes. And I know I moved here because we had our own fire department. I'm just concerned that I think for the residents, they need to understand, the coverage that you're doing, it's a lot more than just Surfside. You're rolling in here, but you could be down 544 and, summertime, can't get around this town too well. So 10 minutes turns into 20 and a person's dead. So I appreciate you explaining the coverage. I'm just concerned that our older community here is not going to be served well. So there was. Oh, now your ISO is a 3. And currently we are a 2. Is there any way, is there something like a special condition where we could keep our 2?
My understanding from the ISO standpoint is you got to meet the standard of a 2 or a 3 or a 4, whatever it is. For Horry County, it's county-wide because it's one system that's county-wide, whereas for Surfside, it's that municipality's, that little area. So just like Myrtle Beach is separate, Conway is separate. So county-wide, for all this acreage we have out there, it's a 3. And then we still have areas that don't have coverage, which is 10, so we're actually 3/10. That's in the more rural area of the county as well. We strive to continue to improve that, but for us to do that, we're doing it county-wide. We're not able to specify adding a resource here or there to improve it for just that area. But overall, our goal is to ultimately obtain a 1. I will tell you that's a very hefty goal in a system this big because of the vast amount of land that we have to cover. But it is our goal. I won't promise you it will get to a 2. And I don't believe there's any way we could carve this out. But I don't know that 100%. We'd definitely look at that, but I don't believe so. I just want to add one additional comment if I can back on the response piece with the coverage. That's currently the situation now we're in with the ambulance here. It won't change anything if we do this. It's the same situation there. And I totally get your concerns about having, is what we all do. And we continue to push forward to that, and our council is committed as much as we can to doing that, to improve that same issue there.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Kinkin.
You just said that it wouldn't change the ambulance, but if you move the ambulance from here to Prestwick, that's another 5 minutes to get to town. Maybe 4 on a good day. So what was the chance of keeping the ambulance here? If we decide to keep maintaining the fire department, what would we have to do to maintain the ambulance? Because before you finish, I've been told this is the 4th busiest ambulance unit in the county.
Yeah.
And if you have that many calls, it seems like adding an additional unit would relieve the pressure on all the surrounding units.
Totally agree with you.
Is that a possibility?
I always say it this way, everything's negotiable. But I'm not gonna say you're gonna commit either way, because we're talking about 2 or 3 years down the road, and a lot can change between there and then. The key point would be, we would still have ambulance coverage in this area. And that's the best I can give you right now. And that's an honest answer. I don't know. I couldn't commit either way.
Now, is this a medic unit or a basic unit we
Medic.
have?
And it's paramedics.
Okay.
Well, let me refresh that. It may be staffed with basic units here, and maybe paramedics on given days, but it's the same model we run. The engine, you may even see Horry County engines in the city on some medical calls because of the paramedics. So
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Stamey?
I want to know how you plan on incorporating the people we have on our fire station into your plans when you take it over. Will our people here be up to y'all's par on whatever you need? Or will they be the first to be served in that community up here,
You talk about the staff?
the staff?
Yeah, so we would work to figure out what's the best solution for everybody. We would, we'd have to go through and see, check qualifications. If they're firefighter trained, which I know they are, and they're missing a medical, we get them through the training. Our goal would be to bring them on board as best we can. If we have any difficulties, I think we can work those out the best we can. Keeping them is to our advantage because they know the area. But I will say this, if we get through this and they become on board, they could end up working anywhere in the county as part of fire rescue. So, it would not be our intention not to bring them on board, including the volunteers. We want to bring them on board too, and make them all part of the same partnership moving forward. There's huge advantages to that. There are details we got to work out, to be honest, and I don't know them yet. Because we just started to look into that, trying to figure out where this might be going. If we see that we're going forward in that direction, we'll get those details worked out, share that with the staff. And so everybody understands up front what the expectation is and what the needs are, what we need to do to make it work.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman?
how many paramedics do you have? Ballpark number, if you have.
I got to think now. More than 100.
Okay.
Pretty sure that's right. Maybe that's a little bit high, but it's in there.
I believe in our fire department, our chief's the only paramedic. Is every firefighter an EMT?
Yes.
That's not correct.
Hang on, yeah.
We have about 3 to 4.
Paramedics? Oh, okay.
We're an advanced life support apparatus.
All right, sorry.
Yep.
And is every firefighter an EMT?
Yes, sir.
Is all of ours are EMTs? So basically, the coverage is going to stay the same except for we're going to have more.
Yes, sir.
So the area is going to be the same. We're, as a Surfside Beach Fire Department, we're going into the county all the time.
Yes, sir.
And there's a system that you use, like a CAD system,
Yes, sir.
and that tells you who's available, who's the closest, and all. So that's not going to
It won't
change.
change at all.
So everything's going to be the same except for we're going to have, instead of 2 firefighters under each shift, there's going to be 7 plus the ambulance.
What you will see different, let's go down the road a year or two, we get this all ironed out. You'll see Horry County Fire Rescue on the building, Surfside Beach on the building. You'll see as equipment apparatus is changed over, moved around, you'll see Horry County Fire Rescue, Surfside Beach station on that apparatus. You'll see the folks that are working this station in Horry County uniforms. You'll see staff from Horry County Fire Rescue in and out of here all the time. And when you call 911, you're gonna get everything you can get from Horry County Fire Rescue to go to that call, just like we did today. So the person on the receiving end of that call is gonna get the best that they can get.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Stamey?
we have in our fire department now, we have a beach rescue or water rescue here in the town. Will that stay in our town? Will y'all provide the same level of coverage for our water rescue?
We currently have that in other parts of our county too. We would definitely look into that. I'm just not that familiar with it. I know our beach patrol does a lot of that too.
Mhm.
But it would not be it would be a disadvantage for us not to have that. We still have the same coverage issues, whether it's here or not, so we would definitely look into that. Until I get a better understanding of it, I can't tell you yes or no, but I would say the desire would be to keep coverage like it is. I just don't know what the requirements are for the personnel.
And 2, if our family events we have here in town, would y'all participate the same thing as our fire department's doing now?
Absolutely. We absolutely enjoy doing a lot of community events throughout the county. And highly recommend that. It's a great interaction between the community and the folks in the fire station. And no, that's definitely a high priority for us anyway. So we'd be more than happy to, all the different festivals you do here, we definitely be a part of that. Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Shawn?
stemming off of the beach coverage, you're saying that you would have to review it. Because you said that you have a separate beach patrol that covers that. That's an additional cost, correct?
Well, that's through the unincorporated, like Garden City area, our beach patrol officers are there, and then up toward the state park.
Mm-hmm.
That's our first responders on the beach emergencies.
Right.
But are you asking if we take that on, is that an additional cost?
Yes.
No, that'd be wrapped up into what we do every day. Yeah. We just need an understanding of what that is, what the capability is, and what we would need to do. But we do provide similar stuff throughout the county. We have a large boat in Little River. We have dive teams. We have a lot of specialty units that would be also a part of this, what they are today. If you needed it here, we can bring it anyway.
Okay.
So it's just something I'm not 100% familiar with to give you a direct answer.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you this, if it's a service that you've been used to,
Mm-hmm.
it'd be my goal to try to continue that in some way. Yes, ma'am. At no additional cost.
All right, I have a couple. Going back to the ambulance coverage, you guys already do that. I know you said you maybe you could negotiate and work out, get the ambulance here, but right now, even though a final decision hasn't been made, it's planned for Prestwick.
That's correct.
Okay, so if it goes to Prestwick, like you said, there's already a few extra minutes added to that, so we just, maybe it could work out to stay here, but I just want to make sure everybody understands the plan right now is Prestwick first. And then, similar with retaining the ISO rating, I mean, we may have the 2 now, but we're awaiting, our next review.
Right.
It's not looking like a 2 at this point. So I don't want anybody to be under the misunderstanding that if we don't do this, that we stay right where we are. We need to do a lot
And if you
to maintain
If you don't
that.
mind, Mr. Mayor, I would say we've been reaching out to ISO, so we would have this transition period to make sure that they would give us enough time to continue to do what we need to do to get assets in place to maintain a 3.
Okay. And then I appreciate Mr. Stamey asking about the events. That was one I was not thinking of, but it's a good point, and that's a big part of the community feel, and I think it does matter a lot here. And then the water rescue, if I'm understanding that, it's almost analogous to the ambulance coverage. I mean, you guys do that countywide.
Yeah, we do, and it may be not necessarily just in fire rescue. Our Horry County Police Department Beach Patrol does water rescue. We do water rescue on fire rescue too. Ocean, river, do a lot of great things. So it's just something I'm not necessarily familiar with. I didn't realize what you all may have offered here for that, but to me, it's easy, no brainer that we would do our best to continue that effort.
But I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is there's no reason to expect anything to degrade if we move to Horry County.
That would not be the goal at all. It's to increase.
Okay.
Enhance. Yes.
All right, that's all I have for now.
Mr. Mayor, I have one more
Mr.
question.
Stan, and I just want to say, I'm suspending that portion of Robert's rules. If we have another set of questions, I want a full discussion here, so I'm not going to worry about 2 turns.
This isn't sort of to you, but this will be to Mr. Vincent a little bit. Tell us a little bit about how the millage what would it increase the town from what we're paying now because we pay a millage rate into the fire department now. So if it's going to be a 23% increase, will that be a full 23% on the millage rate on our town, on our medicine? Or do we have some of that already built in, is what I'm trying to get at.
So Mr. Stamey, Finance did kind of a millage count. Currently, the budget today for the fire station, it takes up 18 mills. If we were to go to the requested budget by Chief Nelson, we'd have to have a 27 mills to cover the request. If we're looking at what the counties actually are offering, we have to go to 30 mills to cover that. So if we were to take it on ourselves, and we don't even have the capacity right now, the highest we can go is 10 mills, and that's not going to cover the request.
But right now, we're paying 18 mills of our budget into the fire department right now.
right now.
So if we would go with the county, we could deduct that 18% and our total for our bill for the homeowners would be from the 18 to 23%. Basically,
You talking about reducing the meals towards the residents?
the meals that you're saying right now, the town pays is 18%, 18 meals into the fire department. The county wants 23%. Will that just increase the millage rate of our taxpayers from the 18 to 5%, 5 meals? Would that be about right overall of what they're seeing now?
I don't know that we could do the total 18.
Okay,
But you could,
15.
you could,
If we're paying 15% into our millage rate for the fire department at this time, right now, and they're saying they're coming in and it's gonna be 23%. So are we gonna get, really and truly, it wouldn't be but a 7 meals increase in your taxes overall?
if you were to reduce, that's correct.
Yes,
You could.
that's what I was trying to get
That's
at.
great. Mr. Mayor, if I would,
Mr. Benson.
Mr. Webster had indicated Prestwick. So what I understand is the scenario is, this is an opportunity for us to consider. If Prestwick, if we say no this year, and they build Prestwick in 3 years, and their station at Prestwick is fully operational, and I think Mr. Webster has said this, and if we say yes in 3 years, and they build the station, Mr. Webster had indicated to me that basically everything from the fire department goes to Prestwick and we shut our building down. So I think that's very important to understand.
Mr. Webster, would you
Yeah.
just?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That would be the intent. If we build the Prestwick station, that covers our area that we need to cover here. And that would be able to absorb this into that coverage from that station. So we would not have any intent to come here and add more personnel that close to that new station. So, and that station's slated to be built in 2027.
While you're still there, I guess, you said if we can't do this by July 1st of this year, we have to wait till next year.
Yes. So the reason being, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, in order to get the millage calculated into the process, we have to start July 1 for that fiscal year, which will be in FY '25. So the millage can be billed out in the tax notice in October. And it has to be in place by July 1 for us to do that. So we would not have any means to be able to do this because we need that millage overall to support us being able to do what we need to do here as well. So we would have to wait another year and come back. It would have to start on a July 1 of any given year for us to do it properly. The only other way around that would be the town would have to supplement until we got to that, supplement in millage until we got there. And I don't think anybody's interested in that. But that's why July 1 is so critical. So if it's not this year and next year, that's fine. But we need that July 1 deadline, and that's going to be a challenge, getting everything we need in place, because from the county side, I have to amend the current ordinance, and that's 3 readings for us. And our first council meeting, plus I have to go to committee, and maybe 2 committees. So I've got a committee meeting August 30th with Mr. Servant chairs. I've got a public safety committee meeting May 14th, which is public safety. And then I've got exactly 3 council meetings to get to the end of June. The same thing would need to happen from your all's perspective. We would need you to do whatever that we need done in terms of ordinances or resolutions. You know, we would need a resolution from the town asking us to move forward with this. So we can start crafting up the agreements in place and get all the wording put in place for the changes of the amendments. Working on all the details that we kind of walked through with personnel, equipment, purchasing stations and all that. None of that's all going to be in place July 1. As long as the mechanism is in place to facilitate all of this, moving post July 1, we can work through those details. That's why I want to caution you, it may not look the same even July 15th. It'll look the same July 15th. But we will be able to start initially adding manpower in here as quickly as possible But the rest of it, it may take us a year to get through the whole thing. This is a huge undertaking, and nothing that just turns a switch and the next day it's all in place. It would be wonderful if we had a whole year to work through all these things, because there's gonna be a lot of back and forth between our two organizations in order to get to where we need to be. That is a little scary, because when you do things in a quick manner, you forget things get overlooked. But I know if we go through this path and we pass what needs to be passed and we get everything in place, we can always come back and amend things. Make it just right if we need to. But that critical piece of July 1 is very important.
Okay, well, and actually, that's a perfect lead in. So, on the one hand, we have to do it in the next 3 months if we want to get it for this year, or we wait till another year. But if we wait too long, then we get into the Prestwick situation. Within the next year, you will not be starting anything with Prestwick. We still have that year
Yes,
if we need to do it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
When, is that the deadline then?
Well,
I mean,
so when you look, we purchased the land already for Prestwick. Now we are waiting in our capital improvement plan for the time when that station has been slated to be funded to be built. And that is 2027. So we could start design in 2026 in preparation of getting that building ready to build. We would pay for the building in 2027. And at that point, it's on. So up until the point we break ground or start spending money toward that design, we've got time. So basically in 2025, we've got time. This
Okay.
next fiscal year. This time next year, we're at the critical point, one way or the other.
Okay, so, and this maybe goes back more to Mr. Vincent and our side. But if we say, okay, we want to take that year and make sure we do it right, don't rush through, don't have the I's and T's kind of issues you're talking about. We still have to do something significant this year to really maintain an adequate staffing within the Surfside Beach Fire Department, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that would be
Yeah.
something akin to a good chunk of that 10 mils that, I mean, I know all the numbers haven't worked out, the rollback hasn't been figured out and all that, and that goes over my head anyway. But I know you guys have a handle on it, but we would probably have a fairly significant portion of that 10 mil, just to keep us going for one more year.
Yes,
correct?
sir. I mean, based on our workshop discussion regarding the budget, we have basically level funded the fire department. We didn't add the requests for the 3 firemen that were approved for this fiscal year to roll forward, or the 4 new requests to be approved. It's level funded at the 2 firemen on the truck.
And if we choose to defer this for a year, would that be your recommendation that we pursue Chief Nelson's requests as is?
Or his requests were for additional part-timers, 4 new firefighters, and then continue with the 3 that were approved for this fiscal year. That is what we cannot do.
So what would we propose in this 1 year?
Right now, we just level funded the fire department as it is today,
You would stick with that?
unless the council changed.
Well, and I guess I'm looking for recommendation, I'm putting it on the spot, I suppose, right
No,
here,
Well,
but.
that's what's been recommended to the town council as of April 8th.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Shawn,
so if I have this straight, our taxes, whether Horry County comes here or we keep our own fire department here, our taxes are going up. No matter what, our taxes are going up. So I guess the people really need to think about, do you want your own fire department? Because, we're a small town. No disrespect, I love all first responders. No disrespect. My concern is I took care of my parents for 20 years. I moved here with my 93-year-old father. I picked this town because it had a fire station and its own police department. So that's really where my heart is. But I also want to do what the people want to do, because Sean wants them to stay. The residents have to tell me how to vote. But another thing that I am very concerned about is our current employees. There was a lot of maybes, buts in the sentence, you know. I think we even have a firefighter that lives in town. For him, what if he gets assigned to Ana? I mean, there's things we have to think about. It's about taking care of your own. So I'm concerned about, I have a lot of concerns. But I just want to clarify, if you take over Surfside, right, you have, and you're not gonna build Prestwick, that's off the table. Okay. I just wanted to clarify.
If I may, Mr. Mayor. So I totally get the concerns, the emotion. That's why it's important to me we don't lose the identity
Right.
to this town at all. And as I mentioned earlier, this pace we're on, we don't have time to answer these questions. That's why there is a lot of maybes, ons, and whatevers. Because we don't have time. So those are things we're going to have to kind of figure out after the fact, after July 1. That's why I caution this quick pace, because if there's a way we slow this down into this time next year, we're actually agreement in place, everything's good. We've had time to work through all these details that we need to work through, because there are going to be things we're not thinking of right now in this quick pace that I won't say be showstoppers for anybody, but there are going to be pauses that we're going to have to either drill through or not here at this 11th hour. And I will tell you from my experience in all this, that is not a good way to do this. But I get the urgency of trying to do it. And we're here to do what we can in this quick time frame if we need to. But I just caution that because there's a lot of things I have questions about as well. Some that have been brought up today that I wasn't even aware of necessarily. But, you know, it would be, in a perfect world, it'd be great if we had agreements already worked out, everybody's commented, everybody's concerns have been addressed, staffing's been addressed, those issues are well known. We could have more details on all these little questions that's come up. We would have time to do that and commit to doing that. I just, it's going to be tough. We can do it the other way. We can get everything in place and then go backtrack it and fix it along the way, but that's historically always been a bad thing to do. So, but we're here to facilitate you all in any way because we understand the need to serve the folks in this community as much as anything.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Stamey.
got a question. If we do this by June 1st, would the Horry County provide staffing into this town at that point? Or would it have to wait a year?
I'm not gonna say a year, no, sir, but it would look like it does today on July 2nd.
Yeah.
We have a recruitment class going on right now. We would, in short, I'll say few months, have more staff that we could put in here. We could put some in here temporarily, not at that level yet, but we could augment what's here, some. But we do need time to fill that gap along the way. And so just working through all the logistics of it, you know, we need several months in order to do that. More months than what we're looking at right now.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because our fire chief has already told us we have not got staff in this town to provide adequate care right now, right today. And it ain't gonna get no better in July because the town ain't gonna go out and hire 9 or 10 new firemen to cover that. And it concerns me that we're in this predicament to start with. I'm concerned that if we do this, it's how quick we can get more staff in this place.
So I've talked to our fire chief about it, and it would be becoming extremely high priority that, you know, we've hired folks to fill spots currently in other areas of the county, stations, equipment, things like that. So we got to be careful what we could move from one to another because we still got those needs that we've already been working toward and trying to complete. We may be able to do some temporary, not full staffing, but temporary staffing. But I got to get with him with the details, and we really haven't got into the details. We really didn't know where we're going.
Yes.
You know, and that I go back to my earlier statement. It's a lot to put together quickly. But understanding, you know, we fully committed to serving this community just like we serve every community.
But we'd be in the same situation if we even decided we're gonna staff this fire department, we would have to go out and hire these people and get these people on board. So we're looking at it probably a year to try to get it staffed up. But with Horry County, as a temporary person, as you put in here, would help the staffing of this department, all the way around, even though they're temporary. We can't go out and just get temporary people and bring them in here and put them in here. We can't.
Yes.
So I think it's a better option for us to look at Horry County for not just for the town, it's for the whole citizens of this town. It ain't just a little portion of it.
That's correct.
It's a big picture. And everybody that's listening ought to take this really, really serious, because this is going to make a big deal to you and your household, your insurance and everything. Just don't, after the fact or after it's over with, don't run out and blame council for what they've done. If you don't get up and speak up to us and let us know, we don't know. We're going to do what we think is best. Maybe not what you think is best, but what we think is best is. And I know from going over the budget, this town don't have the money to pay for this increase. It should have been done years ago, and it wasn't. So we're in this predicament. We all in it, not just the council. Everybody in this town is.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay, Ms. Shawn, go ahead.
this is for our chief. When you first got hired, you had a lot of great ideas. You said you could bring the volunteers back. We could, look at grants. So has that disappeared now? If you stayed here, could you still work on getting volunteers up to speed?
We can absolutely look at getting volunteers. That's not an issue. It's getting the correct volunteers that we need. Like I said, younger volunteers that we can put on their back and do that. With our demographics that we have here, our average age is 55 to 65. That's not our younger ones that we need. Is there ways that we can bring in some additional ones? Yes, I believe there is. Can we still apply for the SAFER grant? Absolutely. Is that going to fix our problem immediately? Absolutely not.
I know that, but we're not gonna have an immediate resolution come July 1st either.
Correct.
Okay, we're both going down this road, and at one point, we're gonna divide. And the division of the road is either gonna go left with Horry or right with us. So I'm just stating these things, and could you explain the grant so the residents understand what that is?
So it's called a SAFER grant, and actually what you do is you have to put in for it. We had to put in for it last week. It's already closed by now. And what it does is it pays for 35% of the salaries of any paid firefighter for the first 2 years. After the 2 years, the third year, it pays for 65% of the payment, and then after that, we're on our own. We have to pay for it fully on our own. That's the way I would recommend if you're gonna hire, that we get that so that we can get that savings that helps the town save up for the further thing that we're gonna get. But again, you have to put in for it. It only opens up for like a month time period. We've already passed that month. If we were to put in for it last month, then we would be looking at a possible award if we were awarded it, and that's the other thing. You have to be awarded it. If we were to get that, then that would be for next year's budget to be put in for the staffing. So if we were to put in for it again next year, we're not looking until 2026 that we'd be awarded that.
So if, there's a lot of ifs and what ifs and this and that, but the council at our next budget would review your recommendation, we could be at least a workable where somebody can save us, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Mayor, I just want
Mr. Vince.
to add to that. When you apply for a SAFER grant, there's a certain percentage of what it costs. And after 4 years, it's full cost on the town,
I understand
which is
that.
an automatic tax increase.
But what I'm looking at is slow wins. If we bring on the 3 firemen that you recommended, right? And I said this before, our taxes are going up no matter what, people. And it is what it is. But if we get this grant, then it slows the process of the next time when our taxes have to go up. See what I'm saying? if we go through this by stages, then eventually we'll get there. This should have been done, yes, but you know what? That's in the past and you can't do anything about it. I'm trying to proactively figure out a way how to keep, no offense, guys, Surfside Fire Department here. So,
The only issue I see with that as well is we're gambling that we get that grant. If we don't get that grant, we have to fund that fully for that time at that time in order to get the 3 people that, well, 7 that we would need.
I think I'm very positive we could get that grant.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman,
the way I understand it now, is if we go with Horry County, our taxes are gonna go up. They're gonna go up to 23 mils. We're paying now in Surfside Beach 18 mils. Horry County, we'd have, eventually, we would get 21 firefighters. For 18 mils right now, we have 6 firefighters. So, and if we go with Horry County, I would assume some of our mills should go down because we're not supporting a big budget item like the fire department. So Horry County taxes go up, Surfside Beach taxes go down. If we didn't go with Horry County, we could only raise taxes 10 mils this year and only probably get 3 firefighters, I believe, for that. Then next year, we'd have to raise our taxes again to get more firefighters. And the way I'm hearing it is to get anywhere near what Horry County is gonna give us, it's gonna be 30 mils. 30 mils, 23 mils, big
Yeah.
difference.
I do want to say that Mr. Vincent or Director Gruber can, 10 mils would pay for much more than 3 firefighters, if we could get that. I think a mill is roughly a firefighter. Roughly, yeah.
Roughly.
Hate to say it in those terms.
Roughly.
Yeah, I believe a mill was $84,000.
Correct.
So, yeah. So, but still to get all of those people, I mean, there's still a point, it just isn't quite as bad as what you said.
And we still have to raise taxes again next year.
I believe so, yes. You're still working on the numbers?
Mhm. Okay, yeah, about 11.
Okay. Okay, do we have any more questions for them? Because if not, we'll look at public comment, but I'll make sure everybody's had a chance. Okay. All right, then I'm going to invite you guys to stay. You don't have to, if you don't want to hear our public comment, but I'd invite you
They're not gonna be
to
friendly.
stay. Do you want to stay, or?
We do have things to do.
Okay. What I'm gonna do is just have a short recess. I'll let these guys go, and then we'll do public comment. But I do want to thank Director Webster and everybody else who showed up from Horry County. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council.
We'll recess for about 5 minutes.
This
Session now.
conference will now be recorded.
So, we'll now move into the public portion comment of the meeting, and it's solely related to the fire department, the info you've just heard. So I want to accommodate as many viewpoints as possible. I'm going to ask that you be as concise as possible and to not repeat what others have said. And then once comments are well, we've already done the recess. All right, so do we have any public comments?
Judy Henyon, 11th Avenue North. This council and this town did not wake up on April the 8th to discover that we had a shortage in the fire department. This shortage in the fire department has been longstanding. The public has not been adequately informed of the lack of coverage that we've had in this town. What has happened now is that public information has been released that has painted a bullseye on us, that we have been operating a firehouse that has been understaffed and has opened us up to possible litigation in the event of a problem. That is my major concern. If Horry County takes over the fire department, the fire station's not going anywhere. It's still going to be right over here. the people that are gonna be serving out of that fire department, we're gonna have enough people to go and fight a fire. I can remember when other members of council stood at the lectern and were off the dais and reported that there weren't enough firefighters. It's gone back for how many years? 10, 12 years? I mean, it's not a new topic. It's just something that's being faced in a public forum. And it needs to be addressed as it should be. People need to understand that we in Surfside do not pay that extra fire district assessment, and that will be added to everyone's tax. The fire assessment on your property and the fire assessment that comes with the auto or whatever you have registered. That's going to come. But Surfside then has to respond by reducing tax on their end, but we still have to meet our budget and balance our budget. And so are we going to end up paying the Horry County edition in addition to paying Surfside? And that's yet to be determined. I would assume that none of you know that answer. Correct or not? I know you can't respond. I know that. Don't want to put you on the spot. I mean, after all, it's been not funded for how many years now? So we need to look at maybe going back and having a sit down and a real discussion about creating a special fire district here that possibly they could negotiate to create a special fire district that would allow us to maintain our ISO rating of 2. You never say never. That's what negotiations are for. And my understanding is that you guys are going into a negotiation with Horry County to see what can be done. Don't take it off the table yet. It's not going to impact the homeowners near as much as it's going to impact every business in town. Because what impacts the homeowner, it's going to be about 3 times that for the business owner in the amount of insurance they have to pay every year. It's a big decision, but you've got to make the right decision for everyone who lives in town. They're not moving the firehouse any further away from your house than it is right now. The difference is there are going to be people there and people who are trained to do their job. Because we have a mutual aid understanding and that truck rolls wherever it needs to go anyway. So maybe the decision is already made and it's just yet to have the vote taken. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean McCurry, 121 14th Ave North. I agree with everything that was said today about the need for beefing up our fire department. And the fact that our taxes are going to go up either way. But I will tell you, of 35 years of being in financial business and lending a lot of money to municipalities and dealing with municipalities very closely, most all municipalities strive to have the best police department, the best fire department they can have. They always want to be better than average. In other words, take the town of Davidson, North Carolina, that's in the county of Mecklenburg. Primo police department, primo fire department, because they strive to have the best. The town wanted the best. They wanted to be better than the county. We have the opportunity here to do that. This is a special place. A lot of us moved here because it is a special place. Special costs. So I understand, no one wants to see taxes go up, but to have good things, you have to pay for them. If we just, I can picture, well, first of all, I have a question I know you cannot answer, but I looked at the budget. Last year, I believe our revenue exceeded our expenses by several $1 million. So I would question or ask, don't we have some excess money to do something now? I know taxes have to go up so that we can continue to make improvements, but don't we have some excess cash to make improvements, to start those improvements now? And I would argue, we could probably start beefing up this fire department as fast or faster than the county seems like they're ready to help us. And then I envision if we could beef up the fire department here to maintain a 2 and to keep the status that we want, then the county's gonna build a fire department in Prestwick. How ideal would it be to have a primo fire department right here with that backup just right down the road? And if you don't do that and they build out the fire department here, every time there's a call in the Prestwick area, the trucks are gonna go screaming out of here. That's a pain in the neck, very disruptive, makes people anxious. It's gonna happen way more than you think. You're gonna hear it all the time. So I say, we have excess money now. Our taxes are gonna go up either way. This town can afford it. I just say, you guys really need to consider or think about what you're doing here, because every town strives. Right now, the town of I'm trying to think of Forest, no, it's not Forest Creek. Carolina Forest, sorry, thank you. Carolina Forest right now is trying to break away from the county, build out their brand new police department. Every town strives to do that. Let's not go backwards. And by the way, another thing, they made a lot of great intentions, a lot of ifs and buts. But if down the road they want to change something, you have no control. None. If they want to decide, well, we've had too much staffing here, we want to reduce it. I mean, they're good people. We love the county. But I know they have good intentions, but things change. And when they do change, if you get stuck in this situation, you have no control. Keep the control here. Yes, we've got excess cash. Taxes will have to go up a little bit. We can do this, so do it.
Thank you.
My name is Dave McCarthy. I live at 717 North River Drive. I just have a couple of questions. In today's crazy world, nobody's talked about any legal things that could be happening. Is there any chance of having a problem, a liability problem going on with this?
We can't answer questions.
I know, I'm just saying, I mean, we ought to be thinking about that, just as a sideline, but it's an important thing. The other thing is response time. I know they have a bigger area and it takes longer, but Sean was talking about this. Down here, how many minutes does it take for an average response? Every business or company, whatever, always has these goals or ratings. And of course, in the fire department, it's gotta be, how long does it take to get out to an emergency? And do we know? I don't know. I mean, I know it's gonna be a little longer sometimes, but what is our rating now, or at least a number of minutes to do a call versus what it could be or will be if we change that, you know? Food for thought.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna keep it.
In Westcott, Bethany Sierra North, not this video, but the one before him helped me to make up my mind. Once we lose control of our fire department, we'll probably never get it back again. And if we have to raise our taxes, then we're gonna have to raise our taxes. You get what you paid for. I've had a long life, and I realize that someone wants to give you a free lunch, you just turn around and go in the other direction, because it's gonna cost a whole lot more than you expect it to. The facts of life are, you get what you pay for, and I think we should keep our fire department. We just have to improve it, and we have to be willing to do the work that it takes to do so.
Thank you.
I'm just a little confused. Anyhow, Betty Lowry, Cedar Drive. I'm gonna back up. We either have $1 million extra or $1 million in the hole. I don't understand. Which way do we go? And there is a propaganda method called exigency. That's when you've got to do it right now or it's gonna disappear forever. It's amazing how many condos have been sold that way. We can't do anything about what other people decided in the past. We have to deal with what we've got. I am very concerned because if Prestwick gets that fire department and we find that we're not able to pull off what we think we can, we lose the fire department altogether. Secondly, we're not talking about just 3 firefighters. We're talking about all the equipment that's going to have to come with those firefighters. And we're talking about raising taxes. Just how much can we raise taxes to be able to afford this? I'm in a better situation than a lot of people. A lot of people, if the taxes continue to go up, they can't afford to live here. So, you know, it's an iffy situation, no matter what your decision is. You either go with the county and you do it quickly because, let's face it, the process is going to be lengthy and complicated. Or we stay with our own of everything and hope we can pull it off. I'm not much of a gambler, but, you know, there are cooler heads here than mine. And I'm not a financial person, my son is. But it's gonna be kind of scary to know that if they get that fire department over there before we can pull this off, we just lost it. And we've lost all that money trying. So, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Yvette Hellier, 7th Avenue, 720 7th Avenue North. I don't envy your position at all. You only have 4 months to come up with a yes, no answer to something that's gonna impact the living hell out of everybody. Sorry. Excuse my language. So I got 3 things. 1, see if you can come up with an agreement in principle first, that you're gonna seriously give this some thought. This allows you some time because he said they're not going to make a decision about Prestwick. They're not gonna be building for a year. There are so many parts to this living octopus to try to figure out everything that needs to be figured out. Who could possibly come up with a decision in 4 months? Secondly, maybe put together a steering committee of people who know about fire departments and what it takes to run one and keep it running and implement it. We have a small building for a fire department that has, the space to house 2 big engines. And yet they want to incorporate this building to meet the needs, a rural building needs for Garden City, Myrtle Beach, all the way past Highway 707, you name it, wherever the call comes in. Is that really practical? Does that even make sense? I don't know, but that's what they're basically saying. It's going to meet the needs of Deerfield, our own town, Surfside Beach, plus across the street, and wherever Horry County reaches. So that includes 707, 544, 501, you name it. And then how much of that really will it fit? It fits our needs for our 2-mile square town, but does it really meet the needs of the rest of Horry County? So that's something that a steering committee can really try to address. They may not build at Prestwick, because it's a big if, but then they may go ahead and do it anyway. So what? That's the way they can do it. So we start out with an agreement in principle. We start out with trying to come up with a plan for an operating plan, at least for this year, with our current materials, our current staff, our current budget, everything. And then put together the steering committee for at least the next 4 months, to come up with a yes, no answer, to answer the questions that we have, to ask the questions for what we don't know, because we don't know what we don't know, and then to go reach out to Horry County, find out what else we need to know, to get an answer to dealing with the equipment, to dealing with the personnel, and so on, and to see whether or not it is a very good opportunity for our town or it isn't. Because I don't think that we really know whether it is a good idea or not, and whether it would make practical sense. I myself would like to see this little fire department stay in our town, but there's some advantages to being able to count on personnel. Why do we have to act like it's an all or nothing deal? A fire hits here and we can't rely on a fire department from someplace else to answer the call? Are we really going to have to wait 10, 20 minutes, or will they be here in 2 minutes? I don't know. It's a lot of ifs out there, so that's my recommendation, is try to get a steering committee, try to get these answers, try to come to a better position where we're more comfortable with saying yes or no to the Horry County folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others?
Hello, John Hyatt, 515 Lakeshore Drive. Listen, I don't know if this hearing is today to get all of us to come up here and beg for a tax increase or not, but it kind of seems like it. This problem's existed for a while. A lot of people have spoken about it. I know it was part of the last campaign. We simply need 2 more firemen in order to have a fully recommended staffing of our fire department. So we add 1 this year, and maybe we can use the grant to add another 1 next year, and we go on down the road pretty happily with no big changes. I happen to come from a community that did do what you guys are considering doing. And today, they wish they could go back to having their own fire department. It did not work out as intended. They lost total control. Their taxes went up as the fire department staffing went up. They wish they could go backwards and have their own department again, but unfortunately, once you give it up, you are never going to be able to afford to give it back. So this is a monumental discussion. It's the same discussion we could make for the police department, maybe for the public works department, maybe for the pier. We could make this allow somebody else to take over things down the road. It's a slippery slope. But it all comes down to the fact we just need to add 2 firemen. This isn't the end of the world. Let's just add the 2 firemen. Do it gradually if necessary. We've survived with 2. We can go to 3 for a year, then go to 4. But let's just add the firemen and not make this such a big deal. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, we're now closing public comments on the fire discussion. With that, we will move into our next item, which is Chapter 4, discussion of business licenses, permits, and regulations. Mr. Vincent, do you want to do that?
Melanie's gonna handle Chapter 4.
Okay. Thank you all for attending.
John's right, we have money, we have the wrong kind of money. We got hospitality and A-tax, you can't pay some hours. You know, we didn't discuss the $500,000 fire truck, but we can write a check for it. Okay. We're still on.
I got a text about it.
I really.
Mr. Mayor, we're still in session.
Yes, yeah, we are still in session. We're waiting for the presentation to come up, but please keep the comments down.
There's not really a presentation.
Okay, you want us to use this as a buffer?
Did you give him the new?
Yeah.
Okay. On chapter 4, it was brought to my attention that the wording was not in the hospitality section 4.91, where the operation and maintenance of the facilities, including police and fire protection, you could use hospitality money for those operations, and that actually is state law. So my recommendation is to change that section so we match state law. And I've talked to Charlie with the Municipal Association, as I want to verify that everything that we have written in there today, even though it might not look exactly the same, but those are still qualified expenses. The only one that is not is that administration cost associated with collection. And I'm not even quite sure that we have been collecting.
Let them know what section
Where are
we're
we?
on.
What page?
Section
Page
4.92.
Yeah, page 26.
20.
26.
Okay.
The permitted use of hospitality funds.
So you might want to run kind of through that whole thing again, because I think everybody was searching, I'm not sure everybody was really following yet.
What was in this section already does not match state law. And I was gonna add the section 9 in there about the operations and maintenance of those provided in the above facilities, including police and fire protection operations could be paid with some hospitality money. So I brought that to the attention. Someone came to me and said that if I was to change one thing on here, we had to change to state law totally. So I was trying to get the answer to that question, and I was talking to Charlie about it. And he said, I don't know why you wouldn't go to state law anyway. Everything you have here is already covered with state law. Plus, the only thing that is not is number 8 that's crossed out, the administrative costs associated with collection. Well, I'd rather pay for fire and police with some hospitality than admin costs.
Right.
So he recommended that we change our section to match state law. And all other municipalities pretty much have already done the same.
Okay, any questions for Director Gruber?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Coleman?
So basically, you lined out everything and the change you were gonna make, and now you're just gonna put what exactly says in the state law.
Exactly, yes.
Because that's what I read in the state law.
Correct.
That's exactly what you're doing.
That's exactly state law.
So to continue that, it's what you would read in South Carolina Code, section, what is that, 61-730?
Correct.
Okay. So that means that if they change it, I mean, we still refer to the code.
Correct.
So we want to duplicate their language. If they change it, then we have to change again.
Correct.
Or do we just reference the code?
No, that's new to me. From what I understand, we would change it again to match state law.
I worked in engineering specifications and it can create a long trail of
Yeah.
changing. But I don't know, if we just reference state code, it puts the burden on everybody to go read the state code now. It's not in our ordinances. So
We do that.
it's just a
I'd
suggestion.
rather have it in the code. Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Kinkin?
Still doesn't allow us to pay salaries for police and fire.
Yes, it does.
It does?
Yes.
Well,
But-
tell us more.
The budget that we have presented to you, we are already using some of that hospitality money to cover the budget that we presented to you. That's why we need to get this done.
Well, my understanding is you had a $500,000 fire truck that we could pay out of hospitality, but we couldn't pay the men to go on the fire truck. Now, if that's changed, I need to know that.
This would change that.
It has changed it.
This
Okay.
would be changed to.
If you
Because
approve
right
this, it'll
now,
change it.
yes, right now we have, in the budget that was presented, we have $1 million hospitality money going to general fund to help with operations.
But that's not new. We've been taking money out of hospitality and balancing our budget.
Exactly. But we need it in writing.
Okay. But it hasn't been able to use it for salaries. So this changes that. Like my understanding is that I could put everything in the fire department except the firemen and hospitality.
Because you did not have written in here that the operation and maintenance of those items provided in the above sections,
Okay.
including police and fire protection operations directly attendant to those facilities. So state law allows for you to use hospitality money for public safety.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? All right. Thank you very much.
And Mayor, also under chapter 4, if you go to page 31, and it's 4-123, well, actually it's under Article 8, rental fees. You'll see the red lines here. It's talking about rental fees for Floral Clubhouse, and Floral Clubhouse is closed. So you just might as well take out the rental fees for a building we don't even open to the public.
All of this related to
Yes,
Florida
sir.
Clubhouse?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman?
in the past, this building right here, we used to rent it out. If we take this out and we build new facilities, we're just gonna be back here again, putting in this section again. Why leave it, I don't understand, why leaving it in, what does it hurt?
Well, everything here refers to Floral Clubhouse. So if we want to go and rent a different building, then we would just put the section in as far as,
Says rates for the town facilities, including Floral Clubhouse.
well, including, okay.
So it's not just for, it used to be rented, this place, used to have dances here, Valentine's Day dance, used to have a lot of different things going on in this building.
And my understanding from the business license manager is that this was established when COVID hit. And that's when the rental fees, so that people could actually go and spread out. And she said, we're not doing this anymore. So there's none of our town facilities that we're actually renting out. So, I mean, if you want to leave it in, because we may rent something in the future, that's fine. But right now, we don't do this currently. So just cleaning it up.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Sean?
I personally would like it left in because, down the road, there has been talk that the community would like to see that clubhouse fixed. So I don't want, if you take it out completely, then people leave and people come in, they don't even know about the clubhouse. They don't know the history of it. So I would prefer to leave it in and maybe put a note, currently not available, something, but I wouldn't take it out.
Any other comments or questions? All right, thank you. We can move on to chapter 2.
Chapter 4 was the easy one.
What makes you say that?
So I'm going to let you present in the order you see fit.
So we'll start it, we'll go through page to page, and Melanie and I both have changes in here, so we'll just kind of tag team this one. So on page 3, the finance department wants to change how we use our credit cards and how we submit receipts by either town council or town employees. So Melanie has, you look on page 3 under 2-20, item B. So we want to get, I'll just go ahead and read what it says. So, the actual cost of travel, lodging, and other expenses directly related to accomplishing business travel objectives will be paid in advance with a town credit card. A town credit card should only be utilized for unexpected charges while away at a conference. If a town credit card is not available, you may receive reimbursement from the town by submitting an itemized receipt to the town clerk for expenses. So the finance department wants to do away with the town council and the employees from submitting receipts. And we'll go down further, and you'll see the red line that based on South Carolina, there's a certain per diem that a town council would receive and also an employee. And that per diem would be $75 a day for that full day. If it's just a morning meeting, finance will work with you as far as what those expenses are. It would be the full 75, would be, it says 15 for breakfast, 25 for lunch, and 35 for dinner. So that's per South Carolina. They also indicate that if you go to Columbia, it's a certain per diem, but if you go to Charleston, it's a little bit higher because of the cost. So that's how we want to change that for town council and also for employees.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, sorry.
I'm gonna go with Mr. Creckwell first, since he hasn't said anything.
Well, so does this mean if, when I as a councilman go to Columbia, I need a credit card to put my meals on? I mean, it says that a town credit card should only be utilized for any unexpected charges.
No, you will get a per diem before you go.
So,
If you're going and lunch is not included in the meeting that you're going to, you would get $25 for lunch.
okay,
It's a set amount, so it saves the town's money.
So your conference and your hotel will be paid in advance by credit card, and then you'll just get a per diem for the day or 2 days. And no receipts.
well, I tell you what, there's no way I go through $75. So it's one of those things where I only get reimbursed what I have receipts for, correct?
Today, yes.
Well, even if we go to the per diem or no? I just
No.
get the per diem of $75 even if I
Depends on your
starve for a
travel
week?
times. Depends on your travel times and what's included with the conference and what isn't. Like if I go to a conference in Columbia and they're including lunch, I don't get anything.
Okay. I don't know.
Well, I'm looking at this here, and
I still have.
I think there's issues with the wording. In item B at the top, a town credit card should only be utilized for any unexpected charges while away at a conference. I think what we really are trying to say is, while away at a conference, a town credit card should only be utilized for any unexpected charges. And I think that was creating some of Mr. Cricklow's confusion there. Because you're not asking to take a credit card, and we will have the town credit card, but at a conference, it would only be emergencies. I think that's what you're trying to say. And then if that's not available, if we're all on our own, we get reimbursement with
Right, you would
itemized
bring your
receipts.
receipts.
Which then does kind of contradict what I just heard you say about per diems, because, the next paragraph still says with an itemized receipt.
We're talking about meals. So this section that you just addressed would be unexpected things that come up. Can't think of an example of what that would be. But.
Yeah.
Well, I know, okay, I went to a conference in Columbia once and the tire blew out.
There you go.
So I had to pay for it myself, or we went and took it in, and then I got reimbursed.
So, yeah, there are things like that, I get that, but I mean, the next paragraph does still say with an itemized receipt, the expenses will be reimbursed.
For those unexpected.
But that's the same paragraph that then goes right into, okay, well, I guess I would break out the meals then. and make that clear that if it's a per diem paid up front, because it's not completely clear here to me. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr.
I
Peck.
had one other
I'm sorry,
issue with it, was the part about mileage, costs for the use of personal vehicles at the current IRS mileage rate. When a town vehicle is not available. Well, I, first of all, don't like driving somebody else's vehicle, whether it be in the town's, a rental or whatever. And second of all, if I'm going to Columbia, let's say all of us are going, we take the SUV, we're gonna pack all 7 of us in there? Or even if we pack 4 of us in there, in my opinion, and I know it's just my opinion, that's a quorum. I mean, you're riding for 3 hours, 4 hours, if you count round trip. You're gonna discuss stuff probably. But anyway, I just think that,
You can take that wording out.
okay. I will. Or I would like to, I guess when time comes, we'll vote on it and see, but, okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Shaw.
This is the scenario, and you can tell me if it covers it in here, because I've read this thing about 5 times last night. Like when we went to Columbia, we didn't have to leave early in the morning. It's not even a 4-hour drive. We just needed to be there for 9 o'clock that night. So technically, we should have not claimed breakfast or lunch, but only dinner. This states that now, correct?
Correct.
And another thing I would like to specify is, because in the past, people have left here and had lunch before they left. They can't do that anymore. Okay. That's all I need to know. It's more in line with what I'm used to in the federal world. Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Coleman.
And also, when we get back here at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we don't get dinner.
Correct.
Just one- That's what I thought it was, but. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Kinkin.
I don't have any problem with breakfast and lunch. But you've got us in a downtown area in most conferences, and there's no cheap places to eat there. Well, maybe you know some, I don't. And, I mean, we ate at a taco stand and it was still over $35. So I'm not sure that maybe this is what the state allows and it's probably good in, Lake City, but I don't think it's good in Columbia or Greenville or some of the other towns they sent us to. I know it's not good in Charleston. A hamburger and a Coke cost me $35 plus tip. So
Yeah.
I think it's too restrictive. I would rather just reimburse us for what we spend.
All right, I think it's the second to the last page on the second clipping, is right off the GSA site.
Yes.
And it tells you Columbia, Charleston, you can put in any zip code in that website, and it'll tell you what you're allowed.
So it's $79. Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Shaw.
Okay. I look at it like this because I traveled for 37 years, right? And yes, I'd like to have $100 stay in somebody's tab, but in reality, it's, that tab happens to be part of my taxes. And I think in this time and age, I think it's a good that we drill this in, for one. I don't pay $35 a meal when I'm here. So that's something you gotta, just because you're on a trip, it shouldn't be a free-for-all to say, I want a $50 dinner. It's unnecessary. We do have a responsibility to this money, and you can very easily find meals within the strength. I did for 37 years, and you can still do it now.
Okay, this is just a workshop to kind of, we're not gonna hash all this out right now, but I think the fact that we have a reference document from the state
Yes.
lends a lot of credence to it.
Yes.
I don't think we need to discuss anymore in this workshop. We can disagree, and when we do readings, we can discuss it amongst ourselves, but I don't wanna log down on every item here.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Stanley.
now, you say that, but if we don't get something kind of discussed and agreed upon here, then we're gonna go into their next meeting when they present this to us with the same problem we have now of just trying to discuss it then.
Okay, well then, go ahead and propose something beyond what the state has.
No, well, I can't. I mean, but I'm just saying, if we don't discuss it now, of any of it, whatever anybody wants to say, and it's gonna be the same thing when it comes back around.
And I guess we'll move and vote at that point, but, if there's, for this particular one, that's why I said that. I didn't say it about the receipts and all that. But this here, I think we've got documentation from an entity, that theoretically has done some studies on all this, and I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us to debate. That's all I meant. But, if there's anything else, that's fine. When we get into the next one, we'll address that as it is. So what is the next one?
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Shaw?
I have a different question in this section, not meals, but vehicles, town vehicles. Does this say anything that, where it can only be town employees using the vehicles? In other words, if you're going on a trip and you're using a town vehicle, you cannot have your girlfriend, your wife, your children because of insurance purposes.
That's in our personnel policy.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it was covered.
And Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Crackwell?
I know I had a little bit of input into this, chapter 2, but I didn't know that we were going to have a lot of other changes. And I actually have changes that aren't in here that I'll give our administrator and whoever was working on it, but like section 2-21, the election and duties of mayor and council. It's a short paragraph, and I probably got another 3 paragraphs. They're not long, and it's about the same of verbiage, I guess, because I got bigger types font there. But anyway, I just think that's why we needed a workshop, because, and I don't know if I need to bring them up. I can.
Well, have we finished this section here? Because I turned the page and there's a couple more.
That's why I brought it up,
Yeah.
because it is the next one.
And it is,
It's in
yeah.
between
So
that one and the next one, so.
Yeah, you want to take that last paragraph on page 4? I mean, I think we kind of already did discuss this with your tire situation, actually. But anybody have any comments on that before we move into the next section?
Which one are we looking at?
Page 4, the paragraph. We spent our time talking about the per diems and all, and then there was just a couple more changes on the next page. But again, we indirectly talked about that when Director Gruber discussed some potential unexpected business expenses. So this is just changing the timing for those. Any comments on that?
For the time of meetings?
No, that's,
Okay.
you still have to submit
All right.
receipts within 10 days instead of 30.
Yes.
Any comments, questions on that?
No.
Okay, so then, yeah, I mean, if you have stuff you want to bring up in the other that wasn't
Well,
marked up, I think.
I don't know if everybody wants me to just read it, or I can make a copy and send it to everybody.
Probably, but go ahead and just quickly say.
Well, basically, I'm just saying that town council, including the mayor, is a policy-making legislative body, provides a vision for the town and provides guidelines to the town administrator regarding how the town is to be run. Council members have authority only when acting together, collectively speaking with one voice. No council member has any individual authority over town operations or staff. And neither any council member nor the mayor shall direct or request the appointment or reinstatement of any person, direct or request removal of any person from a position, direct or request any disciplinary action to be taken against an employee, or in any way countermand any disciplinary actions taken at the discretion of the town administrator. However, town council shall be consulted before any appointment, reinstatement, removal, or disciplinary action is taken that affects the department head. Except for the purpose of inquiry, the mayor and all council members shall address any concern or suggestion for the administrator's service solely through the town administrator. No council member, including the mayor, shall give orders to any subordinate of the town administrator or circumvent any orders given to such subordinate by the town administrator, either privately or publicly. Nor shall the mayor or any council member address or suggest any actions to be taken by the town administrator or subordinates that would countermand the majority vote of town council. I know it's kind of lengthy, but I think it needs to be said, because I know in the past we've had council members or a mayor tell someone to do something, and we shouldn't, and it needs to be in writing that we shouldn't.
Okay, yeah, I think what we need to do is get that to Mr. Vincent and have it officially drafted in here. I don't think we should really even discuss that at this point, because we're not gonna memorize.
Well, and it needs to be gone through a lawyer too. It does.
Did you?
And I don't even know if this has been taken to the lawyer.
I don't know.
Anything that we vote on should be.
But did you, is that drafted from somewhere, some other municipality?
Not really.
You wrote it? Okay.
Well, pretty much. That's
Okay.
why it needs to be.
Yeah, we
gone
definitely
through a
need
lawyer.
to. Sounds good. But I understand in principle, so I would just suggest you get it to Mr. Vincent and, because we're gonna be going through this for a while.
Next.
Yeah, okay, yes, move on.
Yes.
So page 4, Division 2, under meetings, and this is 2-36, time of meetings. We have 2 meetings a month, second and fourth Tuesday, and they're at 6:30, and both are at night. And staff was suggesting that one meeting, which would be the second, which would be the fourth Tuesday in the month, because their staff reports be held at 1 o'clock in the afternoon to have those reports. But the second Tuesday in the month still be at, and I'm changing it from 6:30 to 6, because our planning commission meets at 6, so why not just have it the same time? Just a suggestion.
Okay, any comments?
And I noticed from today, from the 10 o'clock meeting today, we had a full house, so
Mr. Mayor,
we get attendance.
Mr. Coleman?
I have no problem with changing to 6 o'clock. With the earlier start, I think we should have a couple of meetings, if you want to test it out a couple of times, not put it in stone that we're going to have a meeting at 1 o'clock. Because I like when people come, I like when people can listen to it. I like transparency, I want people's remarks, I don't want a room that looks like here right now. And then people are working, there's still people working in the community. I understand that, sometimes staying here at 10, 11 o'clock at night, for some is a burden, but I think it's more important that we get people at the meetings and listening to the meetings and be totally transparent than to have a meeting at 1 o'clock, possibly for convenience for some, but a hardship for others. I have no problem testing the waters, 1 or 2 meetings. If anyone shows up, anyone listens. But just to change it to 1 o'clock without knowing, I think we should hold off on changing it over time.
Mr. Mayor.
Mrs. Stamey, I think I heard.
We've done tried this before. We've done tried doing this before and it don't work. I am totally against changing any times. I mean, besides 6 o'clock, I would go with 6 o'clock. Then we'll go straight into 6 o'clock instead of 6:30. But this 1 o'clock deal does not work whatsoever. So they've done tried it. So I want everybody to know that before we get to voting on it or this comes around.
Yeah, we're not gonna make any motions now, but I get you. Were you gonna say the same thing?
That's exactly what I was gonna say. It's been tried and it didn't work. Went over like a balloon as far as the public goes.
Well, I'm just hearing a comment that we have 65 people online now.
We did.
Okay.
As
We
opposed
did.
to how many
did.
we
Okay.
normally have.
Through you mean a regular council meeting? We average between 15 and 21. We have 25 now, so I guess all the people that was just interested in the fire department have left. So we have 25 still yet now. Just to let you know.
Any other comments on this? I'll just say, I'm actually kind of surprised. I don't care one way or the other. I'm here all day, all the time. But, actually, I think I prefer the evening meetings personally. But I'm surprised at the number of people, with our fairly large retirement population who want to keep them in the evening. You'd think they'd be fairly readily available in the day, but I guess they have plans during the day and are more willing to show up in the evening. And that would agree with what you two gentlemen just said. So I understand it's more for staff considerations, but it just, it doesn't sound like there's a lot of support for it. Is there anybody who wants to speak on moving to 1 o'clock?
I would not mind doing it on a trial basis, but I don't want to make it permanent, because I do feel like that people that work can't listen in, they can't be here, and we're going to lose that. Although you say there's a lot of people online still, I'm surprised on a beautiful day like this, if I didn't have this meeting, I wouldn't be here. So I don't know. I just, I'm okay with trying it. Like I said, Chris is right. We've done it before and it didn't work out. So, but we have better communications now than we used to too.
Yeah,
Thank
true.
you.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Shaw.
I'm personally not for the 1 o'clock one, only because today was an exceptional day. It was a hot topic, okay? And the thing about having people online, having a high number right now, I've heard the working people tell me that, hey, I go back and listen to it anyway. So they're not missing out on the details. And we have to remember, we had a whole row here of guests. So that wasn't like your typical volume of people attending in the afternoon or morning session. I just think it would be, I don't mind the 6 o'clock, but I don't like the 1 o'clock for those reasons.
Mr. Mayor, I would just say that this was gauged on when Zane Peterson held a workshop for you guys to talk about the drone, and there were 32 people here.
That was actually what I was going to mention, was I was surprised how well attended that was. And again, that's a topic, the pier is getting near completion and so forth. That may have been a extenuating circumstance. I guess it seems like we already kind of do this on a trial basis by having these workshops. And, let's just leave it here. If the workshops continue to get attended, even when it's not hot topics, then maybe we would consider it. But it sounds like the 6 o'clock is pretty good, but the 1 doesn't look to have a lot of support.
Okay, moving on to page 6, and throughout the document, you'll see where when their public comments are made, and the ordinance indicates 5 minutes, and what's typical is 3 minutes with jurisdictions, Myrtle, North Myrtle, Conway, Horry County. So we're just saying from 5 minutes to 3 minutes.
Comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Coleman.
Being the person that stood up at that podium numerous times, it used to be 3 minutes. And for the first public comments, you're speaking of agenda items. Sometimes 3 minutes goes way too fast. You're trying to make a point, trying to get something across, and you're halfway through it, and time's up. And you really didn't get the full point across. I don't want to go backwards. Keep it at 5. I think it's enough time. We don't get that many speakers. If we had 20 speakers times 2, it would be 40 minutes extra, but we don't have that. We get maybe 5 or 6 speakers. That's 2 times 6 is 12 minutes longer in the meeting of a 3.5 hour meeting. I don't see the reason to do it.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Kinkin.
I want to hear what people have to say, and some people thought processes don't go as fast as others. So I want to keep the 5 minutes. We don't have that many people that take the 5 minutes, but the ones that do, I remember a gentleman came up here, he had a thing to read, and it took him almost every bit of the 5 minutes because that's what he'd practiced. And he had a lot to say. And I think we need to, as a council, we need to hear the good and the bad. So I'm okay with the 5 minutes.
Anything else?
I'd like to second that.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Shaw?
just for the fact that, to be proactive and to make sure the community knows they can be heard, 5 minutes is good. Seems like we're trying to keep them quiet at 3, and that's not what we want.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Stamey?
On the comment of that, I think we should, when it is 5 minutes and they run over, I think it should be stopped at 5 minutes. You know, don't give them 6 minutes or 7 minutes. When the 5 minutes is up, stop it.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna comment on that. I like the 5 minutes as well, and I thought today we were going to, I thought we'd still be hearing public comments now. So I thought it was really great, and I respected that people did not just keep saying the same thing over and over. You saw the comments changed and got shorter as people went, because they'd already heard that. So I think we can live with that. What I would like to do is get a timer in here that everybody can see. And it will get people, you know, when you hit 3.5, 4 minutes, maybe collect your thoughts. And we can see it. I did have my phone going. I didn't always hit it. So all of a sudden I looked down at the 7.5 minutes, but it'd been like 4 people talking. So I think we can manage it. I think the timer would help, but 5 minutes is not a big deal.
How about lights? You have a green light and then it turns yellow, tell you just about.
However, some
Or
people
you
can
have
do
a
it,
big
yeah.
enough clock so you can actually see.
Right.
Just a big clock that goes.
Yeah, and
It has to be speaker.
yeah, we need to keep hitting it, and I would ask you to do that. But yeah, so that they can see it and we can see it too. Then I not, you know, there's no, everyone can see it. Yes, I think that would be the best bet. Any other comments on this one? All right.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, on page 7, under section 2-41, recognition of speakers, you'll see the cross strikeouts there.
Yes. We don't follow that anyway, and I really don't want you guys jumping up and down.
I don't think I can make it up
I was gonna
today.
do that today, 'cause it wouldn't.
I actually have another thing. I won't read this one, but I will make sure our administrator.
Mr. Crackwell.
He can either get rid of it or whatever, but I think that one I did maybe kind of steal from Robert's Rules somewhere. Maybe not Robert's Rules, but one of the websites or something. But anyway, I'll just say that I do have some changes to it.
But in this section?
You guys want
Related
Want me to
to?
read it?
No, but
Okay.
can you summarize it in a sentence or so?
Not really.
Okay, he'll have some more input for you. It's not gonna soak in.
It's just basically decorum.
Okay, he wants to make some decorum changes as well. Okay. So yes, please submit that to Mr. Vincent for the next time around. We're actually doing pretty well here, I think.
Mr. Mayor, on page 10, section 2-56.
Oh, this is timing again. Okay, never mind, yeah.
Ordinances required. And I know we've had some discussion on this, but this is number 1, we want to strike through. It says adopt or amend an administrative code of ordinances, establish, alter, or abolish any municipal department, position, office, or agency. When you adopt your budget by ordinance. If you eliminate a position or add a position or eliminate a department, you do it through ordinance by the budget. So this is more of a duplication.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Craig.
I agree it's a duplication, but it also, it makes it clear that nobody changes it unless it is a budget change or if we hired, I don't know how many people since I've lived here that they just automatically get hired. We don't even really put them in the budget. We just make room for them and then they're in the next budget. And I think this makes it clear that that should not happen. And I think it should stay. Just my opinion.
Any other comment?
Nothing to change.
No.
But I think, I'm with Crickall. I think that ought to stay there.
Yeah, I tend to think it I'm not saying it's the intent, but it almost sounds like we're trying to work around it.
Yeah.
And I think we want to just, in the spirit of transparency, yeah, I think the position should be clearly stated. Any other comments on that one? I think that.
I'll just add that
It's a
it was
majority.
number one probably for a reason. But I don't know what the reason is.
Yeah, I realize it is a little extra work, but I think we have to do it. It just, to be, upfront. Any other comments? All right.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, under page 13, and this is section 2-61, appointment of committees. And this was added language. Each committee chair shall contact its appointed town council liaison when additional information, materials, and/or reports are needed by the town administrator and staff, or any recommendations requiring town council's approval. So this basically, it includes your committee chair and your council liaison to meet with the administrator or staff to discuss what a committee's meeting was about and what they would like to see come before council for approval.
All right, any comments?
I think this is actually requiring the committee to work through their liaison to get the things they need instead of them going to individual departments. And I think it would simplify things in town if we all bring our stuff to the administrator and he gets the information for us. Or reassigns us to whoever we need to see. But I think this is a good move instead of having chairs going in the town hall requiring information. It's a pathway.
Anything else?
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Shawn?
does this by any way stifle, like, if the committee has things they want to bring to council, by going through these channels, whether it be the administrator or the liaison person, could strike stuff out that would not be heard?
No, I mean, the meeting is not to discourage her topics. The meeting is to discuss them to see how it's affected by any department or staff.
Okay. Collaboration. Okay.
Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, I
Mr. Stanley.
think what it is now that, I think this was a good thing to use the liaison to help get where it needs to be. And I don't think it's to fight anybody or not bring them. But the administrator does have the right to strike out some stuff when he don't see fit it needs to be coming to council on some things. Does he not?
Not the way we have anything written right now. And I would want to be very careful about that myself.
I don't think it's ever been written that way, but I think it was happening that way. That things were not moving forward from a meeting with the manager or administrator, and then it never got forward into council as far as any process. Here, it's just a matter of bring it to me so we can vet it out through whatever department, just to make sure we're not duplicating something or it's going to affect us in a negative way. That's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk from personal experience. I mean, that's exactly what happened. So that's the past. We're leaving that behind. But I do want a more collaborative, joint working environment. I think that would be good. I understand some committee chairs may not, may look at it as an infringement. But we've got issues where administration is going to sometimes have a viewpoint that is different than a committee's, and it should be understood. I'm not saying it should stop the committee from bringing the viewpoint to council, and ultimately, if it is a council issue, we should be the deciders. But I think keeping the administration informed and working through you so that it's an orderly process instead of individual directors is probably not a bad thing. The liaison, I think, could help. I mean, this language is fairly broad, and we may need to tighten it up a little bit, but I don't want to get too restrictive. So I think at this point, I'm okay with leaving it in. I know we were trying to set up a meeting specifically about some of the issues with, not the recommendation the peer committee made, that was the binocular thing, but the ones they want to make. And I think maybe we'll finalize that language as we do that meeting. I know Skip was going out of town, Dusty has limited availability, but I think we gotta work through that, and then this hopefully will become very clear at that point. But in principle, I'm not against it.
I do understand where you're coming from on this because I have to be on the council when that happens.
Yeah, yeah.
So I know that, but they are sometimes that some things need to be taken out. And then sometimes council makes directions to the administrator that this can't be done right at this time. And they do relay that to the chair of the committees. And sometimes the committee just don't hear that. The council's already discussed it and it's been told that right at this time, we can't do that, but it don't get relayed really well sometimes. And I think this will help that problem.
I think it certainly could. And, going back to that, I remember in the previous peer committee, there were times we had questions and, some members of the staff were better at answering questions than others. So if it goes through the administrator, maybe it makes the process longer, but it is more likely to get an answer than just going directly to staff, in my opinion. So it really could help, I think. Any other comments? All right. So we'll, I think that sounds pretty good. And we'll just see if we can, if we have anything to add when we have that other meeting.
So next page, Mr. Mayor, it's page 18. This is under the town administrator. Page 18 and 19 was a part of the salary increases that council had to discuss some time ago. So the new language indicates that any adjustment to the town manager, town administrator salary shall be approved by the town council. Also, under duties of the town administrator, under item F, department heads, the town administrator may allocate pay raises to department heads if funds are available within the fiscal year budget. The allocation of pay raises shall not be more than 5% or more than $5,000 per fiscal year, and the pay shall not exceed the maximum pay listed for the pay grade unless otherwise approved by town council.
Okay, so yeah, taking those two as kind of one item. Any comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Sherman?
I still think this needs to be gone through with council. I think we should be made aware of these pay raises and not have a done deal. Like, I just feel that, more information is better because, this one gets 5%, that gets 5%. Before you know it, that's why we're in the condition we're in. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. So yes, he has the authority, but I still think it needs to go through council, even if it's just for informational purposes.
Mr. Mayor, I would just add that this is a part of if we have a merit program. So otherwise, if we don't have a merit program, I won't be doing these pay raises.
A merit or a step increase.
Or step increase, that's correct.
Yeah, because, it says if funds are available within the fiscal year budget, so unless you budgeted for this.
Correct.
I suppose there's always a chance of moving funds in the budget to work around it, but.
But it actually was written and designed
Yeah.
for a merit program or step increase.
But I think in principle, this is a step in the right direction. All of our salaries are public information anyway, at least at department head and higher levels. 50,000, I think, is the number.
Actually, they're all available. Anything under 50,000, it's just a paid range.
Okay. So I didn't know, if you do it, it's you post it when it's done. I didn't know, are you asking Michelle for additional communication, like just email or something, or?
Yeah, I just think council should have heads up before it hits the general public, because sometimes the general public with rumors and everything else, they find out information before we do. And it just puts us in a situation, an embarrassing situation. We could just be in the line of communication. Not that I want to keep anything from the public, but I'd like to get ahead of it, because if I have questions or I'm being direct questions, I have a little bit of background information.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman.
maybe I didn't get the right story, but we had several department heads that interim administrator was giving significant raises to. And we lost, two of them resigned over it, another one stayed, and then eventually got just about the same exact raise that he was denied. And prior to that, the last administrator, he asked that, he wanted a raise, and he was denied. So how do we, without the council approving it, I mean, if the administrator owned his own mom and pop store, he can give raises out to anybody he wants to. But us being, the steward of the residents' money, I don't think the administrator, without the council's approval, should be making any raises. I don't know where it says that, but it says that he can give a 5% raise. I don't think anyone should get raises that way, individual raises, merit or whatever.
Okay.
How do we stop people from just giving out raises to friends or people they like, or, I just don't like it.
Well, we hopefully hire the right town administrator to assess his staff.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Kinkin.
This would eliminate some of the things that happened last spring. Because there were some pretty significant increases given. Some of them were justifiable. And I went through without even knowing and justified most of them, but there were some I couldn't justify. So it limits what he can do. It spells out what he can do. I kind of like it because we've hired him to run this town. And when somebody's doing something exceptionally, they should get paid for it. I don't think it has to come back to us every time we want to do a pay increase.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Stamey.
I think it gives him a little leeway, but I do think if he does it, if that's what he wants to do, is let council know that he gave this raise or whatever in a later time, let us know what the raise was and who it went to. I mean, I don't think I need to approve every raise he does, but I'd like to know it in the meantime. So with the communication that he lets us know, I wouldn't have no problem with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you get that into the ordinance. I mean, that you're going to inform on every raise. That might be difficult. Yeah, department heads, department,
Department heads. Because how many department heads?
Yeah, okay, it is
And that way,
department
it
heads.
would kind of give us we wouldn't have the say of what he done, but at least give us, like Sean said, some heads up that he did do this and he gave somebody a raise.
Well, why not let us know that he intends on giving a raise and then goes to council?
The intent would be in the budget process, correct? I mean.
No, this is there.
But I mean.
It'd be set up in the budget.
In a fiscal year,
It would be set up in the budget.
Yeah.
Correct.
So,
How much money you have.
if you were asking for 5% increase in salaries for all department heads in the budget, when we kind of know you want to give raises to everybody, and we may say not that much all in 1 year. So I think we do have some control over that. Now, how you would then do it and say, I'm giving somebody 0 so that I can still give 5%, I guess, you should know the details of who's performing better than we do on a day-to-day basis. So I don't see that as a big problem. I don't know. Any other comments?
Just that we don't have a lot of money now. And, I honestly would like to know before a department head gets a raise, why they're getting a raise and how much they're getting. look at the problems we had we had an interim administrator that was giving out these enormous raises. Right, you know, we don't have any money.
Well, but this one here, the 5% and 5,000 would have taken care of that.
I get it.
But, you know,
Mr. Mayor, if you want to add language at the end and say that the town administrator shall communicate this prior to the raise.
I think that's probably,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's what they're asking
Yeah.
for.
I
The
think
problem is
that would
I
be
see is
enough.
that you give the raise and then you tell us, and then it's like, we're like, whoa,
But
it's too late now.
if you wanted to say prior to,
I think that's probably the best bet.
then that's the best.
Any other comments? Yeah, because like I said, this is a step in the right direction, so I don't want to,
No, I get it.
you know, shoot it down. But yeah, maybe you can tighten it up a little bit. All right. What do we have next?
Page 24, under section 2-166, this is regarding style, enacting clause and procedure. Typically, when the council approves an ordinance or resolution, right now, we have to have the mayor and all 7 council members sign off on it and attested by the town clerk. Typically, when the council approves something, it's just signed by the mayor and attested by the town clerk. So all this is doing is taking out, for Sherry having to come back the next meeting and the signature page goes along the line for everybody to sign at one time. Typically, it's just the mayor and the town clerk. It certifies your approval that something's just been done.
Any comments?
I don't think that's a major issue, that there's no reason we can't continue to sign. We have the same responsibility as the mayor. It's our vote. We've approved it, so we should sign it. So I don't want to do away with this.
Anybody else?
I feel the same way about that. I don't think that we should be giving away or taking away responsibility of the council, because that way we got a council here that was elected to make sure that they have read or adopted this and they put their name to it. So I don't see that we need to take that away either.
I agree too.
All right, it doesn't sound like there's any support for that, so.
Mr. Mayor?
If you guys want to keep signing, I have to do it anyways.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Kinkin.
I would like to digress a minute and have you read the next paragraph, or everybody read it themselves. This came up last year when we were doing the budget, and at the second reading, they made a major change.
I'm sorry, which is B?
B.
Okay.
B, right, the next paragraph. And we should have stopped, rewritten the budget ordinance and started the first reading at the next, because that's what it says here. And we didn't do it. And I think we should have. I made a point of we should have, and I still think we should have. I know why it was written, but it was applicable to that budget change.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Krecklau.
I'd like to add that I agree with part of what Mr. Pinkin's saying, but how do you determine what a major change is? Well, that's a vote of council, and that's what should have happened in that case. It should have been voted whether it was a major change or not, and then the council has to abide by the majority.
Okay,
But I don't know
but
how
the
you put that in
lawyer,
writing.
the lawyer said it was a significant, his word was a significant change.
But it's not really up to him to say what a
Well, okay.
significant change is, in my opinion. That's just, again, not, you know.
Well, yeah, I think it's going to be very hard to come up with a broad, generic description of a major amendment that's going to apply to everything, but a vote would do that. And
But how you put it in writing, I guess I could figure it out.
well, I think, yeah, I think we should try to better clarify that, yeah, by saying, major amendment or rewrite will be determined through a vote of council. I mean, yeah, you guys can come up with the words, I don't care. Well, I care. I'm not going to try to do it right now, but do you want to, since you're going to be sending stuff to Mr. Vincent, you want to try that already, or just have him show something?
I can do that.
You get where this is going in 2166B?
Yeah, I
Okay,
remember the situation.
okay. I think most of us do, so, even those of us who weren't, we were on that side.
Yeah. Well, this does say first reading, but it was also for second reading also. Because the situation occurred during second reading.
Yeah, at any reading, really.
Yeah, okay.
And you'll get to see it before we vote.
Okay. Yeah, really, it should apply to first or second reading, yeah. So you might have to break that out a little bit more, but, okay. But I think it's a good point to address, so, and I think we have general consensus on that. Okay. Cool, all right.
Page 26.
All right.
2-168, deposits and withdrawals. The sentence reads, all monies of the town should be deposited in a bank selected by the town council. And really, that selection is by the town administrator, which is the finance director.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to ask the question, how often does that come about?
Well, I mean, when you hire a finance director, I mean, it's her or her assigned, so it's either our finance director or an accountant.
But that's what I'm saying, though. How often does it actually happen that somebody changes banks or changes where?
It doesn't happen that often.
So I don't see a problem with the council making the decision. I mean, I think it's just a safeguard that if you leave it that it's selected by the town administrator, it just means you could maybe open an account somewhere that we don't know about. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not saying you would, I'm just, I don't see why change it. That's.
Or do we say selected by the town administrator and approved by council? And that's, he brings it to us.
Same thing.
Right, but I mean, but we're not going out and looking for banks.
Well, right, and I get that, we should.
So he'd have to bring it to us anyway.
Mr. Mayor, I thought this went out for bids every year. And unfortunately, we just had one bank bid on it, but I thought it went out for bids.
It's just like your auditors. I mean, the auditors is a little easier to get a new auditor every 3 to 5 years, but to actually RFP that out to a bank every year would be very difficult. There's so many transactions with one bank. Now, if you're not happy with that bank, then you'll set up RFPs to the rest.
Well,
Make changes.
I just thought we had that come up last year, year before. Since I've been on council, we voted to continue with the bank we've been using because they were the only ones responded to the request.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why the banks didn't do it. They didn't want to change it.
They work very well with us.
Okay.
So just leave council.
Okay. Doesn't seem to be a major item. Anybody have any other comments? Okay. 27, I think.
Page 27, and Melanie will kind of go through these changes.
This first one, I think, is something that was talked about on council, taking out section 2-187, section 4, and then number 2. Take out the word meters because we no longer have them. And then the wording at the end, in addition, the fund shall allow for a maximum up to $30,000 per fiscal year to fund the beautification of Highway 17 with trees and shrubs for town council's approval.
Any comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Crackle.
I don't know, we're grasping at straws trying to make our budget meet, and we're gonna put $30,000 into another fund. I know it does say, for town council's approval, but it just, I don't know, 30,000 is 30,000, it's half of somebody's pay. I'm just saying.
Or 5 of,
yeah.
5 council members.
Right.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. King.
this is parking fund money, so it's not part of the general budget. It is a separate fund that we use to buy property and beautify that property. And in this case, we're extending it to beautify Highway 17, and that's on somebody else's property, which is an argument people don't like, but we benefit, and the money we don't pay. This is money from people that come to visit our town and pay parking. If they're parking at the pier, it goes to the pier. If they're parking anywhere else, it goes to this fund.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say that I wasn't on council when this happened, but council has been very good about taking money from the parking fund money and using it in ways that I don't think it was meant to be used. It's meant to buy land for parking. We have a parking issue. We bought the property, the town bought the property on 3rd Avenue South. I don't remember what we paid for it. The money that paid for it, though, I do know came from the parking fund money. And we can't use it for parking. Yes, it's a nice piece of property to own. I think it should be turned into a park personally. But here again, we're stealing it from a fund and using it for something that's not really the purpose of that money. And yes, I am one of them that doesn't agree with giving public money to private individuals to beautify their property. I mean, what's the difference? Give me $5,000 to help me improve my lot, how it looks. I mean, yes, it benefits us all, but you would hope that the business owner would want to do that. And if he doesn't, throwing money at it, is it gonna continue to make it look nice after we give him the money to buy the vegetation or whatever? We're going to keep it up if he didn't want to pay the money to put it out there in the first place. That's just my opinion on that.
Any other comments?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to address that. That'll be part of the plan. We don't have a plan yet. This is giving money, so it's worth developing the plan. The plan will address the fact that they have to maintain what we put there. And it is a volunteer basis. At this point, they have to do, apply for it. I think once the plan comes out, they'll have to apply for it. We'll do the work. They have to maintain it. So it's not going to the businesses. It's going to a contract at some point with a nursery people.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Shawn.
I have a big issue with this because I think we're relying on Public Works is the one that's going to be planting these, no?
No. It'll be bid out. I mean, if John wants it, that's fine, but I don't think he wants it.
No, well, I'm gonna say, I can't even get, and as a resident, I've been here almost 8 years, and I can't get Public Works to unstuck my drain in front of my house. So I don't want them doing anything else until they catch up on all the in-town to the residents' responsibilities. So there's a lot to be done on their list already, so I don't want them doing it. They can't handle what they have.
Mr. Mayor, his involvement may be that he's the one that puts the bids out, pulls the bids together and fills them out, because he does that every day. But that's the only involvement Public Works will have, unless he says, look, I'd like to do it. We haven't discussed that part.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Tolman.
First off, I think this fund maybe is past its usefulness. There isn't any lots near the beach to buy for parking lots and stuff like that. I think we're up to what, $600,000. And we're up to 5 million. I mean, we're just gonna keep it in just in case. I think it should possibly even go into the general fund. Having said that though, I was for this until I realized that it's public money for private use. If the people want to beautify that place, and they would do it themselves. We're gonna give them X amount of dollars to beautify that place. And if they didn't beautify it to begin with, who says they're gonna keep it up? And if they don't keep it up, that's just a waste of money. I thought it was for beautifying the corridor, in the medians, not for doing, personal. I mean, I would love you to come over my house and give me some money to put some shrubs and flowers and, and then have John there stop by and prune it. I mean, I think it's, the idea is good. I don't like the private property part of it. You have your own private property, you should be doing it yourself and then maintain it yourself. I just think it's gonna be a waste of money.
Well, I'm going to jump in here. I've had concerns about this for some of the similar reasons. I believe the median is all SCDOT, so I don't think we could touch that and they have rules about what plantings can be, for traffic hazards and all that as well, if I understand properly. My concern here is, and we just heard it, there's no plan, and we're going to develop a plan after the money. That sounds like something the federal government does, put money in and then figure out what we're going to do with it. We don't have that. I actually would support, if we decide we're not going to purchase any more land for parking, and then that's another topic itself. But I understand that viewpoint. It is getting cost prohibitive. Why can't the parking fund be turned over to general fund? But this 30,000 per year, I just see that going out, putting some trees and shrubs in and careless property owners who haven't wanted to spend a dime of their own money anyway are not going to maintain it. And I do see this likely heading downhill fast.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Stakey.
This parking fund that we do have, y'all talking about doing away with it, but it did go for buying property, not just for parking. It helped pay for the town hall that we have over there right now. They draw the money out of this parking to help pay that. So it goes besides just parking. It is actually for purchase of land for the town and not necessarily just parking. So I'd have a problem with just doing away with it. That's an extra fund if we need it, that we can fall back on and use it as a general fund if it becomes necessary.
Yeah, and I don't entertain that discussion at this point.
Yeah.
Just since he brought up the point, what are we doing with this parking fund money? I think that is a topic for a discussion at a future point.
More I think about it, it probably is there for that. But I was just trying to get to the point where we do buy other things besides just town parking spots.
So we're not making a motion. Oh, go ahead.
Just one. I keep hearing that SCDOT is not gonna allow us to do this. I would like to get it on paper from SODOT, because I don't believe anything I don't believe anything I hear. I only have what I see. So I would like it in document form, that they're saying that we can't do it, because they have landscaping in medians all over this area. All over. From Georgetown to Ori, every median has something in it. So I don't understand why our median between the service road and 17, you can't put stuff in. Doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So I'd like to see a letter from them.
Mr. Mayor, I think when this was first adopted, I think it's because people campaigned on it to beautify 17. And I think that's kind of what the intent was, but it don't seem to be working for what it intended to be, because, as I said, a lot of people run their campaign on making 17 look better. So I think that's what this fund is actually set up for, but I don't know that it's going to work for that.
So we seem to have kind of split opinions here. I didn't know that we're ready to move on to a first reading with this. This one seems more split than most of the stuff we've been talking about. Well, if you're going out, we're kind of at 4 now. So I don't know. It seems to me we're not ready to do this at that point. I don't know. Is there any other comment beyond that?
Well, I will say that we've had an overlay for probably 8 years. And it's only been applied to new construction, or if a restaurant wants to become a golf cart store, it applies there. But if the town doesn't do something to push this along, 10 years from now, 17 is going to look the same way, because you have a lot of absentee owners. They don't do business in town. They own property. They lease it. And the leasee's not going to do it, and the owner's not going to do it. They're just using this place as a tax write-off. That's why there's so many empty buildings. So if we want, as a town, if we want 17 to look better, the town needs to be involved. And planning is working, my understanding, planning commission is working on a plan to present to council. And if we like the plan, that's when we really need to approve or disapprove. Because this doesn't spend any money, it just allocates it for potential use. And nothing's going to get spent until we have a plan that's approved by council.
I personally would like to see a plan before we proceed with even this level, because again, I mean, as you just said, we have absentee property owners, and so they're not going to maintain this. And I just see it, it will look different because it'll be dead trees that we have to then remove. Or they have to remove, but they won't do it because they don't take care of their property anyway. I just don't see this being a way to do it. Now, if the planning commission can come up with a workable plan, I think then it would be worth entertaining perhaps. But at this point, I would not make this change. The meters, yeah, you can take that out, but I would leave the rest out. I don't know what everybody else thinks. But
Mr. Mayor,
we're ready. Ms. Shaw.
I agree with you, and I'm sorry, but I have to leave for personal reasons. I'm out.
And you did tell me that you had a hard deadline at 1 PM, so I get that. I was hoping we'd be done. Close.
Well, we only have one more.
We're getting close. And we still have a quorum, so we can proceed.
The next one is under Capital Projects Fund, number 7, about the Beach for Nourishment Fund. Right now, the ordinance had $75,000 coming from both the hospitality and ATAX funds. I felt that was very restricting. So and we're almost to where John says we need to be as far as having a reserve. So we want to change that to up to 100,000 shall be transferred from accommodation tax revenues and or hospitality tax revenues. And then upon completion of the pier and that it is self-sufficient, $50,000 shall be transferred from the pier fund. And then, okay, that stays the same. And then at the end, so we asked John, should we put a cap on this so we're not feel like we have to continually do this once we feel we have enough money in the fund? And he said 1.25, that we haven't spent anything over that. No, but we could change that, raise it a little higher. But he felt comfortable with that number.
All right, any comment?
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with this whatsoever.
Okay, Mr. Stamey?
I think that our renourishment of our beach, we should have excess amount of money in that plan, because we don't know how many times a year this is gonna happen. I don't never see capping it at a rate. We should continue to add funds to it, maybe not at the rate that you're adding it, but there ought to be something going to it every year.
So we can take out that last sentence and just leave it at the 100,000 between the two funds and the 50 coming from here.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't restrict it, like if we need it for something else, it's not
Absolutely.
saying we have to do it. Okay, we'll take out the last sentence.
Well, let's see if there's any other.
Oh, sorry.
But no, I agree with not having a cap on it or making a cap. But when this happened 8 years ago, town struggled to come up with $1 million that we had to come up with. So having this ahead of time is certainly a bonus. And Chris is right. Said we had it renourished, and within a year it was gone. We have no control over the storm, so we don't. And they're renourishing again. I don't think it only been 4 years since the last renourishment. Well, I'll tell you when it was. When was the eclipse? Because they were doing it then. That was 17. So that's 7 years. But it does not, of course, if you've been on the beach a lot, it changes every day, it seems like. But I like having money going into this fund because I don't want to run into the situation we did 10 years ago where we were strapped trying to pull every dollar we could to get our $1 million.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Coleman. According to John, I wish he was here, we've never paid more than, I think, $1 million for beach renourishment. This last one, it's a freebie.
Right.
You know, maybe make it a little bit higher cap, but I think it should be a cap. I've been here 16 years. I think they've done it 3 years, 3 different times. And they're gonna be, this will be the 4th time, and it's free. So I don't want to put too much money anywhere, especially when we're having a hard time meeting our budget. We could use money.
Okay, so if I'm reading this properly, we were required to put in exactly $75,000 per year. So now you're saying up to 100.
Correct. We were putting 75,000 in from accommodations tax and from hospitality.
Okay, and it could be as low as 0. Right? I mean, up to 100,000 is 0 to 100,000, right?
Correct.
So we're not required to put anything in anymore if we adopt this. And then the pier, well, would you use the same logic on the pier after it's self-sufficient up to 50,000 or?
We can.
I mean, I guess I don't know
Yeah, that
why you
makes
treat it
sense.
differently.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what everybody else thinks, but okay. Blah, blah, blah. So beach renourishment shall be held in capital projects fund. Said transfer shall be maintained in cap, and, okay, so I think I heard the same thing. 1 million was about the most we've spent. We typically get help because we're doing this after major storm events typically, right? And there's usually federal disaster declarations, and I know we can't always count on that. But yeah, I guess I'm a little, I don't know, I guess if we can allow a 0, then maybe the cap isn't as critical, but we definitely need the flexibility to be able to take care of other parts of our budget, as we're seeing from, our discussion earlier today. I don't know, I guess the cap doesn't bother me too much if we don't have a requirement to put money in every year. So I won't make a big deal about that one. Any other?
And I know the beach renourishment is going to happen late this summer, so the bidding will be early spring or close to the summer. So John will get an idea of what our 2 miles is going to actually cost.
But even that, I mean, I thought we were told Army Corps is.
Right, but we want to know what that number is.
Oh, okay, just for our knowledge.
Yes.
Okay, I got you.
Apply to this number.
Yeah, well, that would be helpful.
Right.
Yeah, I,
Mr. Mayor?
yeah, Mr. Kinkin.
I'd like to point out that the pier is not going to be self-sufficient until 35, until we get the bond paid off.
Well, we're taking care of business for the council in 12 years. Or whatever it
Okay,
is.
all right.
10 years, whatever. Yeah, anyway, it's a minor point, I suppose. Okay, any other comments on it? I don't think it's a big deal to have a cap if we have the 0 possibility, so I think that this language takes care of it. Whether you want to put in the same in the pier fund, I mean, I would treat it the same, I suppose, but it's very minor at this point.
Okay, the last thing
Big finish.
is on page 29, section, and we want to add section 2.190 and add a budget policy. There wasn't one before that. So this is what I have come up with for budget preparation. The town administrator along with finance department will establish a proposed budget calendar. Finance department shall provide all budget requests for the upcoming fiscal year to the town administrator in the approval format in accordance with the schedule designated on the budget calendar. Revenues will be conservatively projected and expenditures will be budgeted within these projections. One-time or short-term, 18-month or less revenues will not be budgeted to accommodate ongoing operational expenses. This revenue may be budgeted to reduce debt or non-reoccurring capital expenditure needs. All new and continuing expenditures will be based on known and conservatively projected revenue sources. Then the annual budget shall be composed of summary and line item accounts by department. No department shall spend or obligate funds in excess of the amount budgeted in total for each fund. And then the next section is on budget adjustments. The town administrator or his designee, finance department, is authorized to transfer, amend budget appropriations as contained herein under the following conditions. A transfer of funds from line item to line item within a department or from one department to another as needed, provided the withdrawal of funds from the transfer account would not cause the transfer account to be insufficiently funded for the balance of the fiscal year. These transfers will not affect the total appropriation for any fund. B, the transfer of funds among accounts in different funds for situations when the proposed transfer amount has an established budget in one fund but is more appropriately accounted for in another fund. These transfers do not affect the total appropriation of funds to the extent of the transfers in and transfers out. Any transfers authorized by the town administrator that exceed $50,000 will be communicated at the next council meeting. And then C is on amendments. Amendments to the approved budget are authorized under the approval of the town administrator or finance department for purposes defined in the annual budget ordinance. On that one, I'll note, so in the budget ordinance, I plan on putting in items that should roll forward. So that's what this is addressing. It means we don't have to do a budget and come back every time to do a budget amendment when we go from one year to the next. They can roll forward. Our capital type items and items that aren't here, like equipment or something. D is amendments due to circumstances other than those enumerated in the annual budget ordinance must be approved through two reading ordinance approval by the town council.
Okay, before we go on, you read a little differently. Maybe it was just, going fast, but in B, you said these transfers do not affect the total appropriation of funds, but the not is not in there. Did you mean not, or did you?
No.
These transfers do affect.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say it. Do affect the total appropriation of funds, but it's only to the extent of the transfer in and out.
All right. Okay.
So you're transferring from one fund to another and you have a balance.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. What we were talking about earlier. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure when you're going in, that fast, I get it. I stumble over my own stuff too. So any questions or comments for Director Gruber?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Cracklaw.
I'd like to say that the budget is, in my opinion, the most important thing this council does. And to just basically change it and not have to tell us, I think is a mistake.
We're not changing anything.
Well, if you're transferring funds from one to another.
One department to another department.
$50,000, it makes a big difference.
Well, I can't really think of a situation in here. This was like, okay, say we budgeted, trying to think of a good example.
Like we budgeted.
Like we budgeted a vehicle or something in general fund that really, if we start doing all of our vehicles out of a capital fund per se, you can move that budget over to the capital fund instead.
But I think it should go through council. I really do, because it's changing how the money is actually being appropriated. If you're changing it from one budget, transferring it from one budget to another. I agree, in some cases, it's just kind of a lateral transfer, but in other cases, it may not be, because you could be taking it from a department, and I don't know, I can't think of examples either, but I just don't think it should be open-ended just because
Well,
that's what we do.
This would be the same appropriation and the same funding source. You would just be moving it from one fund to another fund. And the revenue moves with it from that fund because it's more appropriate accounted for in another fund. I added this, I don't think that would happen too much here, but we added this language when I was with the county because we did have things that were moving that needed to be over in our capital budget. It was more appropriate there to be recorded in the capital budget. But the money was coming from general fund, it was appropriated in general fund, we just moved it over to the capital.
But did you change the purpose of?
No.
So
No.
you're spending the money on the same
Correct.
item?
I guess, but, yeah.
I understand where you're coming from. But in the question that he's asking, I mean, if you're changing the purpose of what the money's been spent for, then you do have to still come back.
Correct, you
Okay.
still need to come to council.
Okay. So really, I mean, is this a whole new section?
Correct.
Yeah, so we had no policy. We could do whatever we wanted.
Well, I just wanted to make sure, because
We do.
I'm used to transferring, covering line items from one to another and not seeing things over. So when you report if you come and look and say you want me to run a certain department, so it doesn't look like it's over budget in one line item, because they're looking at their budget as a whole, you're looking at the fund as a whole. It's just, I like it clean, I'm sorry.
So, yeah, no, I'll commend you for putting rules on yourself. I mean, that's good. Because we kind of had a Wild West in the past. So it's definitely a step in the right direction. And you grabbed this language from Horry County?
Yeah, the majority of it,
Okay.
yes.
All right. And same thing we said about attorney should review, but it sounds like it kind of already has been, if the language came from it. Is there any other questions, comments? I'm not a finance person, so I don't know that every sentence in here is the best way, and I understand Mr. Krecklow's concerns, but again, we're moving in the right direction. So I would tend to be grateful for that alone. Any other comments? All right. Well, I think we've completed this task and made some good progress here. So I guess, go ahead, Mr. Stamy.
Off the topic of the budget, I'd like to ask a question on this fire deal. When is it going to be brought back to us on another level, or we discuss this more? I'd like to know more about what's going on with the town and how we're proceeding with this. When some of the dates are, I'm concerned about this.
Our next scheduled workshop by the calendar is the 22nd, but most dates were tentative, so we're looking at April the 30th is our next budget workshop.
On the fire department is what I'm asking, sir. We've had this today. I want to know when we're having a follow-up chat about this. Because as they said, they want to move by July 1st. But I'd like to have some more discussion on this and talk about it and find out more about it. As of right now, what we set on is not enough information to make a decision on. And I think we, as a council, need to have more discussion, either that or you need to bring some more information to us about it. what's gonna work and how it's gonna work, and, because we just sort of left in left field right now, or I feel like I am, anyway.
I will just, so first thing, you just said, yes, we need another meeting. And is that meeting with the county representatives again in a workshop? And secondly, what additional information do you need?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Kincaid.
We have two kinds of money. We have the hospitality and aid tax, and until today, my understanding was we could not use it for personnel. Then we have taxes, property tax, which is primarily used to pay personnel. And if we can use some of that money for personnel, that makes a huge difference, because right now our taxes barely cover our personnel costs. And we couldn't add the 3 firemen because we didn't raise taxes to cover those 3. So that, I need to understand that, because if we can use, because we got, I won't say a lot, but we have excess hospitality and aid tax funds. We don't have excess property tax funds.
No, I will say your hospitality fund has been used to do all your capital equipment for fire and police
I understand.
and for projects, public works projects. So, and we'd have to look at it too, like right now, I said in the budget that we presented, we're already using some of the hospitality money for operations, transferring it to general fund. The question is, we gotta make sure we're not exceeding the budgets of that, public safety.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, what is the cap gonna be that we?
There's a max percentage.
Okay, I don't know that part,
I think-
and I do know that we've been transferring money for the 3 years. This is the 3rd budget, so that's not unusual to transfer money in to cover some of the costs. But I did not understand that you could transfer it in and cover actual payroll costs. In other words, you can put everything that a fireman wears, including his truck, but you can't pay for the fireman. So my understanding, it needs to be corrected.
That's why I wanted to change that section, because that's not the way I read it. And I felt like nothing should be transferred into general fund unless it was capital, was the way it read.
But you got clarification from Mr. Barrow.
Well, that's why I said we need to change it to state law.
Okay. Mr. Stanley, you were gonna?
Yes,
Did you
I
want-
want to follow up on that. If you're saying there are a percentage of it still that we can only use to pay salaries with that money?
Yes, I mean, you gotta look, I wanna get with Charlie again on this because it's for tourism related, but it's to cover operations, so I gotta find out from him exactly, can it, yeah, how much, what is the percent, is there a cap, is there a percentage cap? Or can it cover everything? That's my question for him.
So right at this point, you don't know that question.
Correct, and we're already, and like I said, in the budget that was presented, we're already using like $1 million to cover those 2 functions.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman.
I think everyone has the idea that we have 4 months to do this. July 1st is in 2.5 months. So if we're gonna do it, we gotta get going. It can't wait, another 2 weeks, another 3. So we have to decide. So we have to have another workshop as soon as possible.
I don't know if we need a workshop or, because I think we've heard everything we're gonna hear from Horry County.
Right.
I think you need to bring us a proposal. You need to say, this is what we recommend now. You and the chief, I mean, based on what we heard today, this is what we think we should do.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr.
I'd also like to know, if we're not paying, say we went to Horry County, and we're not paying for a fire department anymore, will we get any taxes back, and if any of our mills back, just to know where we are? I mean.
And I think that's gonna be a Director Gruber question.
Yeah, I know.
But go ahead, finish. I understand you guys are trying to
what I'm asking is that we need to know if we are gonna get a reduction in our own town taxes, and exactly, well, not exactly, but pretty much what it's gonna be, just so we can weigh it out to what the increase is gonna be. And, I mean, everyone has this idea that we only need 3 firefighters. 3 firefighters is not going to do anything other than if you're gonna have 3 firefighters go to the fire, you hook up the hose, and 2 of them will pull the hose. You hook up the hydrant, and 2 of them are gonna pull the hose out, and then they have to stand there and wait for Horry County to respond. You have this, the beautiful idea that all of a sudden we're gonna have this magnificent fire department. We're not. The gentleman from Horry County even said, he can't get that many to us in a timely fashion, but right away he can't do it. He has an academy class going in already, and that's only gonna bring some of them here. So for us to think we're just gonna all of a sudden pick out X amount of firefighters out of the air and man our station, you don't know what's going on, because it's not gonna happen like that. And our taxes are gonna go up. They're not gonna go down. If we go to Horry County, their taxes are gonna go up, and our town taxes should go down.
And as I recall from the budget discussion, you still need information from Horry County about the rollback and all that. And that's still coming, right? We don't.
I did a quick calculation of what they have sent me, and I don't want to throw out a number yet, because I'm not sure. I have a workshop next Wednesday, to see if the way I've done the calculation is correct, but I think we're looking at a rollback of like 1.4 mils. But don't.
That's fine, okay. And next Wednesday, you'll probably have more information?
I hope, yeah, we're
What's the
having a
first
workshop with the DOR.
Okay, so about a week from now.
Mhm.
Are you prepared to move to a recommendation? I don't know what another workshop's gonna do for us.
Yeah, that was my question. I don't know what else Horry County can.
Yeah, and I mean, we heard from our residents, and I actually liked what I heard. I thought it was very respectful and very thought out. And of divergent opinions even. I heard some in favor, some not, basically. But we need to move ahead. I think we're ready to prepare a recommendation. And I mean, tell me if we're not, if you're not.
No, I think we're ready. And I know the timing happens to be a very good time right now.
And if it doesn't work out and we cannot rush this through, and I am concerned about rushing it through.
Right.
It does sound like we have the year. I mean, and then we live with the budget, or maybe some tweaks to it for 1 year. But I guess that's what I want, I think, to bring to here.
Yeah, I don't want to rush
Chief
through it at
Nelson.
all, but if Horry County says we can do it, but we need to start making decisions.
Yeah. I mean, we gotta let them know very soon, because they have a long process too.
That's
So,
correct.
yeah, I guess to me, I don't know what you guys think, but
Well,
a recommendation is where I think we need to go. Mr. Staney?
I don't think that it's, I mean, it is Russian. I agree with the Russian part of it. But I think it's all that we need to really start looking at it really seriously. And if we don't do something soon, we're really gonna be in trouble. And as the gentleman said, we can fund this fire department, and we can ask for that grant or the mutual aid. No guarantees whatsoever that we'll get them, because they put in them for them before, did not receive them. I was even on council when we give approval to get grants for firemen, and it did not go through. For some reason, Surfside's always been looked over, or we feel like it because they think we got plenty of money. But I do think that we need some kind of something to start looking at and start making this hard decision that we're gonna have to make. And I would like for y'all to start looking at what you need to present to us.
Anything else?
Mr. Mayor, the fire chief a year ago told it wasn't safe for the truck to leave with just 2 men on it. We were supposed to add a third for each shift, and we haven't done that yet. That's what was in the budget for this year. And I think those 3 people need to be put on as quick as possible. So we don't, and that's not enough people. We need 4 per shift. That's 12 people. We've got 6. And then you need a couple for fill-in. So we're either gonna have a fire department that we pay for, or we're gonna pay for the county to run our fire department, one or the other. And if you wanna maintain control, which I do, we're gonna have to raise money for firemen that actually fight fires. And that's hard to do in the way we're set up right now. So.
All right, so, yeah, to me, like I said, we could have another workshop and we could say the exact same words that we just said today. I know we had a good meeting, but we've talked it all out. Now it's time to decide. So I think a recommendation is the way to go as quickly as possible. And I'll just leave it to you when that can be. Okay. Any other comments on the fire? Yeah, Mr. Stady, go ahead.
We'll make a motion to.
Well, I just, I was, very soon, very soon.
Okay.
I think chapter 4, we had no issues with that. Chapter 2, are you, with the input we gave you today, ready to bring it to a first reading without any other discussion, or do you need any?
No,
Well, we have Mr. Kreklow's changes.
Right, I think by May 14th, we can have it back to council.
Okay.
That's the first.
I don't want to do another workshop if we don't have to. I think
That's a
that
regular
should be
meeting.
manageable.
That'll be a regular town council meeting.
Okay, all right. Okay, that is all I had.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a
Mr.
motion that we adjourn this meeting?
No,
Because I said no motions?
No, you got
you had
public
public
comment.
comment on that.
Oh, that's true. We do have public comment here, yes.
Oh, I would make that earlier.
Well, we did, I specifically asked for 2 public comments. Thanks to Ms. Medina for catching me. Are there any other public comments? And do you feel free? We've been here already this long.
Sorry, kind of rush.
It's been a long day.
Sorry. I wanted to make a public comment on chapter
You
2.
gotta state your name.
Yvette Hellier, 720 7th Avenue North. On chapter 2, first of all, is it possible if we could get a link online for public comment, so I don't have to waste time doing it here, and just write it in, like we did with the comprehensive rule, because that would really be nice with ordinances. And that way you guys receive them, and then you can just make it all part of the public record and respond to them and take them into account however you want. But real quick, while I'm here, I know in the federal government, and I wanted to make this public comment more in keeping with Sean, because she and I both work for the federal government. Per diems can be put, and all about travel and using a credit card and all that, could be put into an SOP. And then the SOP is referenced in the ordinance and kept up to date, so you don't have to write all that stuff down in an ordinance and then have to update it every time that's updated. But that's just a recommendation. I totally agree with the idea of having what's missing, which is the role and responsibility of the mayor and the council member, which was mentioned by one of the council members here that isn't in there about what they're allowed and not allowed to do. I thought that was missing too, so I completely support that. As far as the one slight, I think it should be referenced that the Civic Center be named fully in the ordinance. It's the Dick M. Johnson Civic Center. The idea of having a daytime council meeting at 1 o'clock as the staff has recommended, I know we've had it in the past. We had this one today. I would agree with having an earlier one, like at 3 o'clock perhaps, because I do feel for our workers that come in here and want to give their report at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, then be able to go home. A lot of people do listen in on the tape recorded messages and spend their time being able to get something to drink, do a bathroom break, come back and listen and stuff. So that second meeting where those reports are given would probably be a good opportunity to do that, as well as the 6 o'clock meeting earlier in the month.
So that's one yay for having 2 different times in the month. Because some towns just have 1 meeting a month, not 2, and we have 2. So that would be my support. The page 13, you make an addition to paragraph O, requiring that the chair of a committee go to the liaison on council to request for town staffer to be provided with input. I don't remember the exact language, but I'm the chair for the stormwater committee, and I work closely with our representative, which is John Adair. So since I already do that, would I be required to instead go to council member Stamey for what I already do with Director Adair?
But we're not
Because you're
taking
putting it into
questions
the
right now,
ordinance?
but I get what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, because
We'll consider
that committee was set up to have the town representative, which I assumed all committees had until I found out that they didn't. And I understand where that paragraph came from because I went to many of the peer committee meetings at the beginning when you all started. And I also felt that your charter was not quite right because there was quite a bit of work that you were doing that was inherently governmental and that you did not have the right or delegation to do, but that was my personal belief. I believe instead there should be a really well thought out, detailed guidance document or manual for committees on how you want committees to be run. And one of the main factors should be that committees who are volunteers, ad hoc, should not be doing inherently governmental roles. So they should not be looking at RFPs. They should not be doing the work that staff is hired to do. They should be advising and recommending and coming before council with proposals, but not demanding. They should not be demanding that workers be there at their meeting to do advice or whatever. They should be working with town members to be there to help. It is not my job to make sure they're there to tell me what I want to know. If they can't be there because of their work, they can't be there. I will ask questions and I will write them and I will offer to be at their beck and call, but they shouldn't be made to be at my beck and call because I'm a volunteer. And there's a relationship that should be built and it should not be antagonistic. And so that's the job of the committee. The committee is to advise, but it should be friendly. It should not be antagonistic. So when a committee comes to council and says, well, we're not getting any help, there's got to be a reason for it. And there's got to be a better way to do that. And, I think that most of the people that work in town try to be helpful, but they don't like to be told what to do. They shouldn't be made to be told what to do. There's just got to be some better communications and stuff. So that was one of my questions about paragraphs here. It depends on the committee, I guess, and how much the liaison may or may not be involved with the committee, or my committee, the Stormwater Committee, is very technically oriented. So I don't know if going to Councilmember Staney or whoever comes after Councilmember Staney, part of that committee, would be as involved. And I can't speak to the other committees. The other committee I'm on, the Community Garden Committee, sure, if Skip wants to be the one that I go to, because I don't have a committee or a town person that I work with so much. I still go to Public Works, but, that might be a little different. But that's just something to think about there. And I think the parking fund, $30,000. I think it's absolutely commendable that you want to have $30,000, but I think it's backwards to not have a plan and then put it, first you have to have a plan and then put it in the ordinance. It's backwards if you do it the other way around. Some suggestions for the $30,000. Absolutely no private property. Unless you do a grant or something like that. Then you've got a mechanism from which to control it. But some other things. On 17 is that golf cart facility, road. And they have those ugly signs that say road closed. That definitely can be beautified with shrubs and trees and get those ugly DOT signs out. I can't stand that every time I go around Fifth Avenue. I don't know if, and that,
Time.
that area there and a little bit further down. Oh, that is
Okay, I understand,
awful.
but we are at time.
There, okay, I'm on time. Sorry, thank you. But that link would be really great. Yeah.
Any other comments? You want to pick up where you left off, Mr. Stanley?
Make sure.
I just asked, no other comments. Public comments are closed. How about that?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.